On this episode, we have Peter and Louisa from Humphrey Munson. They flew all the way from the UK to Boston just for this podcast. How nice of them. We are going to talk a little bit about Peter back in 1995 and all the way to 2005 and then all the way to 2019. What was super interesting to hear was the fact that they never veered off what they believed in, but also the culture that they developed within their business to help them become what I call one of the most reposted, successful kitchen companies in all of Instagram and beyond. So thank you guys for coming to the shop.
Very welcome. It's good.
Sorry I'm late.
Very pleased to be here.
Tyler, they told me that they were dropping the car off in Boston at 3 o'clock and they were going to meet me at my shop at 5. And I said, yeah, there's no way they're going to make it. They're going to come in rush hour. They're going to take at least an hour in traffic. Yeah. And it was 10 minutes of 5 and I was leaving a job and James called me and said, hey, Peter's here. And I was like, oh God, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Whoops. I was like, he got there way faster than I thought.
That's cool.
But it was super cool. James, and he actually just texted me, and he's going to listen to this podcast and think it's funny. But he very grateful for all the knowledge that you guys.
No, it's cool. So it's I like what you do, and it's it's great. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Really great to be here.
So funny story. We actually recorded with you. I don't even know. Probably a year ago.
I think just over.
Probably,
yeah.
And long story short, we lost the podcast, even though we had a couple teasers, I think, on Instagram saying, you'll never guess who we talked to.
Do we blame Benny for that?
I don't know if we blame Benny or John. And John, unfortunately, is not with us today. He's got a lacrosse practice. So it's me and Tyler holding the fort down here.
So we can blame either one, though, because John's not here, and Benny, I don't think, is going to listen.
But Benny won't listen. John will. So let's blame Benny.
To be honest, it was on the telephone, right, and it was broken all the time, and had to keep ringing back. And
it was, but it was also, wasn't it like midnight? And we didn't know.
It was late.
I remember that we tried twice, and I think the first time I called you, and I was like, "Why isn't he answering his phone?" And I looked on the world clock, and it was like it's midnight. I'm like, yeah, he's definitely sleeping. I'm like, let's just give up on that one. But now you guys are in our time zone.
Yeah,
so.
We're good. We're here.
So you guys took a little trip over here. You're up in Vermont.
Yep.
And then moseyed back down to Boston.
Yeah.
And when do you guys fly out?
Tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Yeah.
Tuesday night.
Are you guys in for work or vacation? Holiday? Is it holiday?
Yeah.
Just came here to do this.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
I mean, it is Nick from NS Builders. That's what usually most
exactly.
of our guests do.
Exactly.
But that's
you missed
good
it, Tyler. We were talking.
You can charge.
Talking about bowing
that
down
on Nick's business account.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We will. That's good.
So we were chatting in the shop, and speaking of that, we were talking about bowing down to owners and the brand and builders coming in thinking that hey, we're working with Humphrey Munson, but we had an interesting conversation out there about kind of your process and just where I think you and I connected a lot more than I expected and had similar personality. And Louisa, you're gonna laugh at it, but how we're always yes, and you kind of stepped in, and amongst the other people and your project managers have kind of shoved you aside.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, how did you start? Like, where did Humphrey Munson start?
So I left school when I was 15. So in England, that's before, time. You're supposed to leave at 16, I think, something like that. So I left early. I didn't do a lot at school. Slightly dyslexic. Didn't feel that the school was really, So I left school early, and I went to... a friend of mine was working Saturdays for an upholsterer locally. And he said to me, this guy's looking for a full-time, apprentice. So I went along and I got the job, and I was working there as an apprentice for, I don't know, two and a bit years. But that kind of really got me into using my hands, and and I kind of figured that I loved it. It was good, but it was a lot of the traditional stuff, so horsehair and stitched edges, and coil springs, and just Chesterfields, all that kind of thing. But we were making the frames as well, and I just I loved the frame making. The woodwork was more what I was kind of into. So I left there. I did have a go. I started my own business in upholstery. Not long after that, sillily, really. I was too young. It was silly. But, I thought I'd give it a go. That didn't last because I was too young. And, so I then joined a group of friends that are carpenters, on-site carpenters. And literally went from there, and I kind of honed my skills. I was never really taught, everything was learnt on site.
Yeah.
To this day, I've never been taught cabinet making. I've never been taught. Literally, no one sat me down and said, "This is how you do this. This is how you do this." I've just taught myself.
Hold on. So step back. So you 2 and a bit years. So you're like 17 and a half, 18 years old.
Yeah.
And you had left and started your own company. What was the reason you left?
I left because I moved to London.
Okay.
I was in a sleepy back kind of town, village, and I moved to London, and I just wanted to be different. And I worked there for a bit first.
Yeah.
For somebody else. Didn't like that. Then came back out, started my own business, did a few bits, but it kind of went a little bit wrong. And my heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
It was called Please Be Seated.
Right.
That's how much my heart wasn't in it. And then I was too young for that whole thing, and I just kind of in my early 20s. Then I started carpentry and first and second fix on site, and joining up with.
You explained what first and second fix was before. So first fix is the cabinet making?
No, so first fix is your so before
mill something.
Yes, millwork. So, but it's before the electricians and plumbers come in.
Rough carpentry.
Rough carpentry. Okay. Exactly
yep.
right.
So framing and
everything, and then trimming is then architraves and second. Yeah, that's second fix.
Is cabinet making considered second fix?
No. So cabinet making wasn't in that at all.
Okay.
And then I'd kind of join with these guys, and we used join with an architect, and then on site we would set up a workshop in the basement and kind of work our way down from the top, making wardrobes and, bathroom units, and then the kitchen, everything, anything that's cabinetry throughout the house, but also doing all of the, trim work and everything that was going on.
Tyler, we asked Melissa about this, about building cabinets on site and what she preferred, and she was like adamant on doing it on site and that she gets a better product. And I had asked Peter if, money aside, everything else aside, what would you prefer, to build them on site or in the shop? Yeah,
and we definitely would be in the shop. I mean, there's no...
Build them in the shop, you said.
Yeah, definitely in the shop.
Yeah.
Because you can't make an environment that you can create furniture on site as well as you can in a workshop.
Yeah, I think that's what
no way.
Our argument was, that the tooling that you have in a workshop and the space that you have in a workshop is just more conducive to producing a higher quality, more accurate cabinet. And I think that what Melissa's argument was, that if you're building on site, you have more of an ability to adapt to the space. But I just feel like if something is custom made at that point, like, you should be able to take everything that you need from inventorying that site and make it in a shop and have the same effect.
Definitely. I mean, in the shop, you've got all the bigger machinery that you're never going to get on site, are you? I mean, what we do now is completely different. You couldn't do it on site. But I totally believe in, setting up a really good working space on site. I mean, that's,
even when you install.
Even when we install, like really, really good. But you shouldn't have to use it, really. Right. If we make kitchens right, they're going to fit and they're going to be great, and the fitters are going to have a really easy time. probably my fitters would say that we don't have an easy time.
Hopefully they listen.
But yeah, exactly. They will listen. And they'll be hitting me on the back of the head. Yeah, they do. I mean, they have a good time. They have an easy time. It's not, there's a few points that come up, but they're brilliant. Our fitters are, they are cabinet makers.
Yeah.
They're not just installers. They are cabinet. They literally, like I was saying to you earlier, if there's something that goes wrong, they could pull that out and they can make that cabinet smaller or whatever.
I think that's important. I mean, you see James in the shop, and he's 1 year in right now as an apprentice cabinet maker, but prior to working for us, he was doing installs for, they would order kitchens, they would show up in boxes, he'd take them out, he would install them, and he left there because the work environment wasn't great, but that's where he's comfortable. And he's come to me and said, I really want to do the install, but I think it's so important that he's in the shop right now learning how these things are manufactured, and to be able to he's not going to be I mean, I could be wrong, maybe a year from now he's just constantly installing, but there's always going to be that, he's returning back here and then helping to fabricate these. And there's a lot to say like that relationship with a cabinet from the time it's manufactured to the time it's installed.
You're never going to get a better fitter, an installer, than one that knows what they're doing right from the beginning. We've got John, who started with me about 8 years ago, and he started as an apprentice. He literally was a scaffolder, and he came and joined us. And now a lot of people will tell me 8 years is nothing, but when you really believe and you want to be, he betters himself.
He's such a sponge
every day, and he can do everything now that we do. I could put him in any station, anything in the workshop, anything on site. He's done every job, and he's just fantastic. But they're the kind of guys you want. You want the guys that are going to be able to put the tools down there and do this over here and be able to. But I was saying to you earlier, and I'm sure we'll go back into this about manufacturing. So our manufacturing, we have stations. So we have frames, we have doors, and it's because, that's a great way of learning,
Right.
You can bring in an apprentice, they can learn on doors, they get a certain kind of feel to it, the sizes, everything that goes on, and then they'll move on to frames. And then they'll move on to this, and then they'll move on to that. And, and eventually they'll do specials, specials is like where you really have to use your brain because they're the bespoke parts, round stuff and all that kind of gear.
Right.
But, we want those guys to then want to go out on site because, even if they went out for, which we're actually going to do, we're just going to send them out for like a week or two, just so they know what the fitters are doing, what the installations teams are doing.
Right.
Because, the more they understand.
Well, there's so many pieces to cabinet making in that. I mean, from the raw material manufacturing all the way to install.
Yeah.
I think, again, you said, stations, right? Understanding all those and being able to hone, the skills on each of those all the way through install.
Yeah.
That's so important.
I feel like
because
that starts, even with design as well, having your head wrapped around that aspect of it is material constraints, sizes, depths, elevations. I feel like even when you're designing, it helps so much if you've had a hand in either fabrication or installation, because how it's going to come together, and then how it's got to install, that you're going to actually design your kitchen built around the install.
It's like when Tyler, I'm sure like you've done it as well, is like you get a kitchen, right? Back when you would just show up to just install kitchen and trim, and you're sitting there trying to dissect these plans, and they could be the best plans in the world, but you've never looked at the kitchen. You don't know how it's designed. You don't know what this filler is for.
You don't know how far the floor's off, everything else.
Yeah, it's having that approach all the way through. I think that's, I actually sat down with James the other day and asked what was one of his biggest pain points, because that's the most important thing I need to know. And he said not knowing what the space is going to look like before I build it. And he's like, if I can just take an hour out of my day and just understand what the space is supposed to look like, when he's building it, it would make more sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, like, to your point, Tyler, right from design, like that's, all the way to install, that's having, you're there throughout the whole process, so you don't feel like you're just a cog, a cog in the belt.
Yeah, I mean, especially once you get into fitting custom spaces or older homes, where you have things that are out of plumb, out of level. I think that's very important because there's certain ways that cabinets are going to come together for it to appear seamless. And if you aren't kind of designing around that from the get-go, I feel like it's obvious, or you end up having to fuss with something on site after the fact.
Yeah, definitely.
So going backwards a little bit, because we talked about your manufacturing now, but so you went and worked for other carpenters for a while.
Yeah. So I was working for a main kind of architect. We were doing a lot of work in London. That kind of petered off, and there was not a lot of work around. So I just kind of thought, I'm just going to start my own business.
This was 1995, right?
Yeah. So I just did a friend's kitchen,
mm-hmm.
and it just rolled from there.
Who designed that kitchen?
So it was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you may have skipped a couple steps if you did one kitchen and then it just rolled from there. Like that's it.
And all of a sudden this.
And there we are.
Magic.
No. Exactly. I did. I started off that, and then I decided that I heard at our local lumberyard that a guy who makes kitchens and fits kitchens was looking for someone to share his workshop because he wanted to share the rent. It was perfect for me, and I literally never stepped inside a proper workshop, never. And this, I suppose, would have been about 97, something like that, after I've been, doing a lot of on-site stuff,
So that first kitchen you built was on-site because that's what you came from?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I was buying probably, I think I bought in the carcasses, and then made all the, because a lot of it was kind of lay-on doors, veneered MDF, edge-banded, and, that kind of thing,
mm-hmm.
which we do a lot of with the iron and iron it on, and, and all this kind of thing, but... when I first went to my first workshop, which I shared, it was a massive space, and the guy was never there because he was fitting kitchens, and he would only use it at night time. He'd come back from on site, do a bit of this, bit of that. But literally, he had a nice Altendorf panel saw.
That's a heck of a way to start.
Yeah, it was great. It was really good. And then he had, he had a really small kind of spray shop. It's about the same size as this. And
everyone thinks the podcast room is really big, so
yeah. And then he had an extraction fan, which was literally sitting in the corner room, about the size of that blue box down there. And and he'd spray. And anyway, he taught me to spray, and I'd be spraying, my first kind of doors, and I learned a little bit about, mm-hmm. Hand spraying and all that kind of thing. And then a friend of mine. I was very lucky, got a very rich friend who bought a lovely big house and said he wanted to do it up. And there was barns. Actually, going back, let's rewind. He asked me to do one of his rooms, which I said, yeah, of course. We were good buddies. And he asked me to do one of his rooms, and then the barns that he had on his land were free. And he said, if you want to set up a shop, then go for it. And so I did, and I set up in one of his smaller barns. And it wasn't 4 months before I'd outgrown that and taken on the bigger barn. And I literally, I think I worked for him for about a year.
In his own home?
Yeah. So it was big house. Doing all sorts of different things, from wardrobes to kitchens to this to that.
You were doing other work at the same time?
No, because there was only me and another guy. So it was only me and another guy, and that kept us going. Believe it or not, there was a lot of work. It wasn't. We were doing bathrooms and leather paneled walls, stuff like that. Because you
were involved with everything.
Everything, yeah. Going back from this, I taught myself plumbing, taught myself a bit about electrics, and because you had to do everything back then. When you were fitting kitchens, you were expected to do everything.
Is that the case now?
No, not so much.
Not
for us.
You need to be licensed, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I did, I was a Corgi registered back then gas fitter. So I went to college to learn about gas fitting, because you had to, because you couldn't touch it otherwise. Anyway, that aside, I worked for this guy for about a year, and then we was passed around friends, and it just kind of grew like that. And every job I got, I bought a piece of machinery. So I could say that panel saw was bought on so and so's job, and that was that planer, thicknesser, and I bought all like second-hand gear, and it was like and a sander. It was a 600 wide sander. It was but we built and we built and we built, and then we were working for people, just all sorts of different things. So Carhartt in England, so we did their offices, and then we did their shows that they did, and we built like structures for them, all these kind of things, loads of things, loads of kind of really interesting, but still doing kitchens here and there and this and that, and it was quite a
I think it's funny,
varied time.
What's super relatable is you're doing projects and buying equipment as you can, which I think, Tyler, we talk about this all the time. It's like, I think people forget that. Everyone thinks, they look at you now, right? Or they look at someone in a similar role where it's like, well, yeah, he's got a fancy shop and he's got all this equipment. Of course, like, they can build the most beautiful kitchens. But, it's, same thing with our shop. It's like, I didn't always have this stuff. I didn't have a planer forever. No. It's like you buy that stuff as you see fit. And Tyler, it's like, even when we both started like doing renovation, you'd buy what you could, you'd buy the cheaper jigsaw. Yeah. And then when you could afford to buy, a nicer one, you would replace that, but you would buy what you could to get the job done and use it to its best of ability.
Yeah, I feel like there were tons of times I even bid jobs where I didn't have the tools to be doing the job, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to put half the price of this tool on that job, and if I get it, at least I'm covering half the cost of it, and then I'll worry about the rest later.
I'm pretty sure I did a job where I put the entire cost of the tool, and that was the only profit. It was like, if I do this job, I'll definitely get that tool.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't very much profit in the beginning. No, I don't know if there still is.
No. That's definitely how I start. It was literally do a job, buy a tool, a job, buy a tool, and
So you're still in this shop that you're renting, right, with the other guy? Oh no, I'm sorry, you're in the barn.
So we're in the barn. Yeah, this is rented. So this is in 2000. We took this over, the new big barn, and literally, So we were building up, and I would pay my guys way more than I'd pay myself. I literally every bit of profit would go back into the business. There was literally nothing left. There was days I didn't pay myself. I literally a lot of days I didn't pay myself. And what people really don't. I'm going to talk about that now. That time people don't realise. They can look at Humphrey Munson now, but the amount of blood, sweat, and real tears that I've actually cried through pains of running a business is very real. And if you think that you're just going to pick up a tool and you're going to get to, greatness, you're doing yourself wrong, because, like I was saying to you earlier, you have to make mistakes.
Right.
You have to learn on the job. You have to. We wouldn't be where we are if we didn't learn, but if I didn't make the mistakes I've made.
What do you think, might be a reach, but what do you think one of the biggest mistakes you ever made was?
I don't think I've ever made a mistake that I've not been able to fix. That's one thing I would definitely say. Mm-hmm. I've always been the type of person that would say to a client, I'd say to them now, if I fitted a kitchen in, and like you came in and you were crying and you didn't like it, I'd take that out. I'd take it out and I'd put something else in, and I wouldn't,
Today.
If I can't deliver for you, then that would break my heart, because that's the kind of guy I am. I'm not.
Well, that's the emotional side too.
Yeah,
like
absolutely,
Louisa, we were talking about. Yeah,
exactly. And that's why I'm kept out the back. But it's you've got to really believe and be emotional about your work, because that's the client can feel that, the customer knows that, And yeah, okay, I've made my mistakes, but like I say, I've never left any mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've paid for mistakes.
Sure.
You know, I've lost a lot of money. Absolutely. But you can't not. You've got to pay for it, do it right, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, make sure you don't do that mistake again, and on you go to the next one.
I think a lot of people go ahead, Tyler.
I mean, we have that conversation weekly almost. Nick's business is a different scale than mine. I'm 3 guys, Nick's 12 guys, but Nick and myself, when there's a mistake, it's not, hey, let's fix that on the next job. It's, hey, let's fix that on this job. And a lot of times it doesn't matter what it costs us. That's just the mindset that we've had from day one. I mean, I did it last week. I drew up a detail for a cornice and I put a bed molding upside down when I was drawing it to scale to kind of get approval for it. So when I went to install, I installed half the room with basically it upside down, which like probably nobody would have noticed, but I was like, all right, I'm ripping it all down and redoing it just because like I want it to be done right. And I have this almost to a flaw that if it's not right or it's not up to my standards, ripping it out. And I think that Nick's the same way, and it sounds that you're the same way.
Exactly.
And it's not money. It's not that I think, it's almost just like if I know it can be done better. It's just like if I know it can, that I'm going to redo it.
Yeah, I think that I'm exactly that. If I walked onto a site and I saw something wasn't right, we would change it. I know that the guys will be listening to this and thinking, yep, he is terrible. You know, if it's even just minuscule, if it's not right, it's going to be changed.
Louisa, are you involved in that? In like the, let's rip it out?
Well, I think it's when it's your reputation, when it's your name above the door, you have to have that approach. And if it's not right, then you have to put it right. I think it's really important. It's expensive, but it's really important.
It's certainly not cheap, and it's not, you're not assuming that up front either.
Yeah.
It's a cost that you're not expecting.
Absolutely.
It does help you to learn from your mistakes as well.
Yeah, and like you're saying, you have to do it on that job because you're not going to learn for the next job, are you?
Right.
You can't unless you redo it and you go, right, that's how you do it. That's how we're supposed to do this. You're not then going to go, get it right on the next one.
It's funny because I was telling someone the other day how most of the time when I walk on a job, there's something on that job I end up asking the guys to redo. And it's just I look at the job differently, and I'm trying to get my team to understand, the way I look at it and what's important and what, how, even though that does look good, like we have to think about this from, we're touching the whole house. Yep. So if that's not cohesive to what we're doing in all the rooms, then does it really make sense? To a point now, I got a call from one of my tile setters, and he said, so your guys ripped out the tile I installed yesterday. And I was like, I know, I saw a picture of it. He goes, what was wrong with it? I'm like, it's just not the way we would have done it. Yeah. And he's like, so am I redoing it? And I was like, please.
If you don't mind.
Yeah. He's like, okay, I get it. I mean, he's like, I should have asked you. I'm like, yeah, and it's no fault of your own. It's just not the way we would have wanted it.
Yeah.
And I think, like, obviously internally it's easier for us, subcontractors, that becomes more difficult. Yeah. We're fortunate to work with a lot of people that are the same on every job. So they're probably charging me for it at this point. They're probably like, oh, it's an extra, throw an extra 3 days in there. He's going to make me rip something out. So let's cover ourselves now.
I feel like is my microphone working fine, Doug?
Yeah, you're good.
I feel like I can't hear myself.
Mine just got really loud.
Maybe that's better. Is that better?
You sound the same.
Oh, okay. Then it's on my end.
Mine's really loud.
Yours is still loud? Is yours loud?
Yeah, it's on. It's just something moved down here and it got really loud.
Is it loose?
I think I'm good.
No, it was better than it was, but you just. Oh yeah, that's better.
Better?
Yeah.
So I used to walk in I tell myself, just leave it, see how you feel about it tomorrow. And I just gotten to the point now where I'm like, as soon as I see it, I know I'm going to rip it out.
Yes.
I'll sleep on it. And then the next day, same thing. I'm like, I'm just ripping it out the next day.
Yeah, because you'll just be in bed thinking about it, you might as well just get it done.
Let it stay for 5 days, 10 days till the end of the job, and I'm still going to be miserable about it. So like that initial reaction, now I'm just like, it's got to go.
Right.
Definitely.
You're delaying the inevitable.
For sure.
Yeah.
Plus, you like all day you end up doing something that you're just adding to stuff that you have to rip out.
Yeah, and just thinking about it. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only crazy one.
So, how many kitchens have you ripped out? Have you ever taken a whole? None.
Never. No.
That's awesome.
Well, I truly believe in what we do.
Well, I think it goes down to your process.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say process, Tyler.
Yeah.
Because everyone has been on here saying process. I should just say it. But so I want to get into what you're doing now, but you're in the barn.
Yes. So
you finish your friend's home.
Yeah. So there's lots of work going on, doing lots of bits. I take on, and I'm taking on people off and on, because
help.
We'll get big jobs. Yeah, we'll get big jobs. We had a really good spray shop there, Anyway, I was about kind of 2007 that I kind of decided, and actually it was my friend who said to me way back when, he said, because I've always said, I want to make kitchens. I want to be a kitchen manufacturer. I love kitchens. Mm-hmm. It is just literally a passion of mine. Because there were so many people, I don't want to say this, but so many people getting it wrong.
Sure.
There's people don't realise there's the complexities of a kitchen. It's not just thrown in boxes and then just hoping for the best. There's so many moving parts with the kitchen. Even more so now in what we do. But back then, I always wanted to be making kitchens. And he said to me, make a kitchen, just one kitchen, and then just get it out there and it will come to you. You're good. This will be good. So that was back in kind of 2000 time. And then in 2007, in the barn, there was a sectioned off bit, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to build a showroom. So I did a big room, tiled the floor, put one kitchen in there with a table, and it was the office as well. But we did it really well. It was really good, island and everything. And that was the beginning, really, of Humphrey Munson. And we got busier and busier. People will come to see obviously if they can see it, they're gonna love it.
Was that true to your style back then as it is today?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots that we've changed,
right?
But absolutely,
the
underlying thing was there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I took that kitchen out in 2010 and moved it to our new building, reused it and repainted it. We don't do a few things that are in it now. There's certain things about that kitchen.
It's definitely evolved. I think the look has evolved.
Oh, huge!
So much.
Absolutely, without shadow of doubt.
But the quality is the same.
Yeah. In fact, the quality was. It was just like I was so immersed in it. It's like it was really my baby, if you like. Anyway, so that's how it kind of grew, and I got some great jobs, took some photos, advertised. I think 2 or 3 years ago we had people coming in with that advert that I used donkeys years ago and said we love this kitchen, and this is like
the original one.
Yeah, it's like crazy. Not in the showroom, but on a customer's thing.
That was one of the last jobs that you fitted yourself.
Yeah, it was the very last job I finished, which was kind of 2008 was my very last job.
The pictures compared to what we do now were like taken on equivalent like on an iPhone.
Yeah, but I used it. I used it for adverts.
You could see the.
Yeah, it did us proud. I mean, that was just the catalyst. Really, that was just fantastic. And we got more and more jobs, and my whole thing was. I had a huge love for joints and wood and how it went together. I didn't want to do kind of lay on doors anymore. I didn't want to do that kind of modern thing that we were doing a lot in the bespoke kind of times. And I really just wanted to say, you know, we've got our own thing. This is what we do, and it went from there, really. And that's what happened. Exactly what happened. You know, it's if you think it, you can do it.
So what do you think at that point, building your showroom, that kitchen in that first showroom, what do you think set you apart at that point? Was it your design? Was it your proportions? What do you think? Because at this point, I feel like you do have a very unique style. And I do think that you have like an English feel to your kitchens, but you said there's so many things that everyone's doing wrong with kitchens. Why do you think that building that one kitchen helped you take off?
So there's a lot of things, like I said, that have changed. But even to drawer size and things like that, we're probably using the same kind of thing as we did that. Proportion is massive for me. I mean, it's just the thing that people skip. That's not what I mean. That when people do it wrong, I'm really not talking about their design and the aesthetic of it. When I say that people were doing it wrong, I'm talking about really how it works as a job. You know, as you know, things were going wrong on site, and you know, I never heard of any kitchens going smoothly. You know, it was very, very rare that a kitchen would be, you know, go in nice and easy, out the door, lovely. There'd always be this missing or that wrong, and this, you know, and that's the kind of thing I mean when people were doing it wrong. Design aesthetic wise, thank you very much for saying that, by the way. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that. You know, I do think we have our own look. It's born from my love of contemporary furniture. So a really clean.
Guys. People racing down the street.
That's all right. It's my love of contemporary furniture and also the classic English look, you know, and it's there. I do think there's a join there, and I do think that it's something that most people can't see. They just look at our kitchens and they think, yeah, this looks good, this looks right, but can't put their finger on it. And to be honest with you, I do know certain things, obviously, but there's, you know, I look at our kitchens and for a very long time, I just thought, you know, we make kitchens.
Right.
You know, but it wasn't until we had a really great following that I started to realise, well, yeah, we are.
You have something special.
You know,
here.
we've got something special. We do a fantastic, you know, everything service and everything aside, which you know, I really do go on about, and our quality, but design-wise, aesthetically, we are proportionately correct.
But and I think that's really important when you say proportion and symmetry, because
I don't know what's going on here.
That's a hot rod, isn't it?
Is someone really driving? Is that someone really driving down the street?
Yeah. Must be a race.
It's John Marley testing out his new Japanese truck. But I think, like, you're absolutely right. I think where, you know, Ken, who's the lead cabinet maker in my shop, we talk all the time about building something to a point where when people look at it, it feels better aesthetically.
I think that's so important, though, about the showroom, is that lots of clients struggle to visualize how something's going to look until they actually see it.
Right.
And if they can come in and they can touch it, and then they can open the doors and open the drawers, it becomes an experience.
That's what we talked about earlier, is having that experience and having the opportunity to experience it rather than, you know, a sample door or a catalog to shuffle through. Because
I would bet that if Peter hadn't have had a showroom space, then the company couldn't have grown the way it did. Absolutely. Because when clients come in, and he's a big part of that, obviously, at that stage, because he's the one that's designing them, so he's meeting the clients, etc. But when they come in and they see the kitchen, they start to imagine themselves in the kitchen. And that's a really important part of the design process, because even with as many amazing drawings and computer programs and CGI images and all kinds of things like that, you still can't imagine it until you're standing in it. And you can say to someone, this is what your island would be like with this seating around in this foresection or whatever. And it just binds everything together. It's a really powerful thing. And I think it's essential.
Yeah, I'd agree wholeheartedly on that. I think especially with the design and even the proportions and everything else, and putting things on paper, I think is the first step in that process. But just because something looks good on paper, just because something looks good in a picture, it's once you get into that space and you actually are there, you can. There's something that you feel, you know,
and the proof is in the pudding, as we say in England.
What was it here?
Do you say it here? The proof is in the pudding.
No, for sure. And I think
you've got to see it.
Yeah.
Believe it.
And even
because you can draw a kitchen. You can go on the internet and draw a kitchen and design a kitchen. Maybe not like how we do it or how you guys do it, but you can do that.
No, there's a Humphrey Munson app I have that spits out a kitchen for me. No, but I think a lot of times we install kitchens off of paper, and you know I look at a drawing and I'm like, I just don't know if that feels right. Because it's very hard. Like this is a new style. Like what's that finger detail gonna feel like? And it's not until it's done that I can say this is great or yeah, it's good, and then walk away and realize that we kind of messed that one up.
I think that's the hardest part too, is putting, you know, what's on paper, making that feel right in real life, you know, with whether it's depth, whether it's scale, whether it's proportions. And I think that's where it takes a lot of mistakes or screwing up, where it's like, I won't ever do that again because that looks too heavy. And I think that when you do design something like you had mentioned that's proportionately correct, that you can't walk in and say, well, you know, I know it's because they put a narrower rail, you know, in between the drawers or whatever it may be. It's just that everything coming together just feels right. And I don't think it's one thing that you're going to put your finger on that's going to say, well, that's what sets their kitchens apart.
That is exactly so true. Like people think that they're just going to be able to know exactly how you build this thing, but it's not about that. There's a massive process to kitchen design. It's not just about, you know, the style size and the this and the that.
Because there's no formula.
No, there's no formula. You know,
there's no magic.
And if you look at Humphrey Munson, and I'm rolling back a little bit. So you can look at our website, and most of those kitchens have been designed from paper. Like we've never been there. Mm-hmm. You know, we will take architect's drawings, and then we will design a kitchen off an architect's drawing. And a lot of customers will come in and say, well, why aren't you going to come and see my kitchen? Why aren't you going to come and see that space? But, you know, I don't think I'm going to be really big-headed here. I don't think there's a space that is given that we can't do a fantastic job with. Mm-hmm. You know, I really don't. I believe in everything that we do.
I think when it comes to, I think that's very true with the layout and the spatial planning, but I think when it comes to the design details, like the colours and the worktops, like we do go to site later on in the process. If we're doing, like if it's a new build, there's nothing to see. If it's a renovation, you're adding an orangery room, there's nothing to see. You can't, you know, what are you going to get from going to the site? You're going to see a big hole. Mm-hmm. But when it's a refurbishment of like an old house, the light is really important. So we would go, once a project's like been commissioned, we'd go later on.
It's not so much about the details of the detail. And as we say to every client,
it's all
that bit's really easy. And it is, you know, getting colours right and getting handles right. And that to me, I just think, you know, that's the fun part. You know, the real kind of, in design, the real hard work is the bare bones. How that kitchen's going to work, the flow of that kitchen, you know,
that's all what takes all the time for us.
I mean, it's just literally, you cannot just plop, 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 plop. You've got to think, I'm in that kitchen, and how's this going to work? How, you know, what's going to go on?
That's something I believe you had touched on the last time we spoke with you, that you do design for aesthetic reasons, but you really stress how functional your kitchens are as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Function first, and then, you know, because again, being big-headed, I know we can get it right. I know we can make it look lovely. That's an easy part. the functionality of how it works in it, and every kitchen is different, right? Because every house is different, every flow is different.
Every client's different. I
every
think that's
client's
the thing.
different, yeah.
Everyone wants to be able to unload their dishwasher and get the things put away really quickly. But the nuances of how people live are so different. What one person loves, another person will hate. Some people think like boiling hot water taps are the best thing ever, and some people think that the devil's work. Like you just, and then they've got everything in between, and then there's so many things you could,
but balancing,
so different.
But balancing that, but also staying very true to your brand. Like that's one thing that I find super interesting is that you do have, not just a few, but there's a very specific style and a handful of each items. Like you talked about your stone company, you only have a handful of those items because they work with your aesthetic.
Worst selection of, well, it's a really good selection of stone. The stone is excellent quality. But we've probably got the worst selection of stone at any stone company in the world because we've got about 15 you can choose from.
Yeah. That's actually more than I thought. Yeah. But it's, I think you had made the reference about, or I think one of us asked the question, if, what if I wanted my kitchen painted Ferrari red? You would say, no, this isn't for us.
We did have that recently. Someone wanted to have the island painted bubblegum pink.
We said no.
Right. Because that's not your aesthetic. And that, I think for your position, like social media, right? You have a very specific style on there. You scroll through that and everything. I said it on our last podcast is that I think you guys are probably the most Instagram kitchen company, or the most Instagram kitchens ever.
Really?
And I would say when I'm scrolling through, you guys get reposted all the time. It's immediate. Like there's no question in my mind whose kitchen that is.
Yeah.
And you guys have done a really good job with that. But when someone comes to you and says, I want you guys to build my kitchen, but this is how I want it to look. I think that's one thing I've taken from you guys is that when I speak to clients and they want me to renovate or build them cabinetry, but they want to design it, well, then why are we involved?
Well,
because you know what we do and you know what it looks like. Like you're coming to us because we've provided you an aesthetic that you enjoy, and now you're going to alter that. So when we complete it, you're not going to like it. It's not going to fit our. Social media is a great tool because it allows you to see the differences.
Yeah, my question would be, you came to us in the first place. There was a reason why you came to us in the first place. If you love what we do, then why do something that is out of the ordinary for us? Right.
It's not because you make the most durable cabinet. It's because you make the most everything cabinet.
Yeah, there's a whole story to it. It's all cute. It's a curated brand. We do what we do because we love what we do. We completely bought into what we do. The colours, everything about us is curated. I would never say that a pink island is a bad idea. It's not. You could put it in somewhere, it'd be fantastic. It's just not Humphrey Munson.
Right.
It's not what we do.
So I know that wasn't always the case because you probably would have said yes to it.
I've done loads of crazy stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It wasn't just the fact that it was like a bubblegum pink island. There were some other frilly things that we just don't do, and we're just not going to get into doing scrolls and all this elaborate old-fashioned, not old-fashioned, but that sort of very kind of 80s
ornate stuff.
Yeah, the really ornate stuff.
Yeah,
sort of frilly bits.
Because that's not us. I mean, people look at Humphrey Munson. You can, like you say, you can look at a picture, and that's what I've always wanted in my life, ever since I can remember. Yeah. I tripped up on it.
Those kitchens hold up over time, design-wise. Like if you're able to create something that it's almost timeless at that point where it's safe enough, you're probably actually doing your business a disservice because people don't need to replace their kitchen every 10 years.
Yeah.
But you're creating.
I think that's so true. I mean, I think future proofing is the thing that this is what I always say, and this is exactly what we said to those clients was, this is what we do. What you're describing isn't something that we would really be comfortable doing. It's not really our look. And we just don't feel that that's going to be future proof because that's going to look dated. And it's like when magazines ask you for what's the latest trend in kitchen? I just say, we don't believe in trends. You should just do what you love and pick what you love, and you can't go wrong. And if you want to incorporate something that's like on trend, then do it with the lighting above, the pendant lights above the island that you can change easily and things like that, you know.
Yeah, don't do it on a kind of copper sink that's then, you know,
yeah,
you're going to get, you know, whatever happened, you know, it's not in trend anymore, and you know, it's probably gone discoloured and whatever. And
copper's my pet hate trend.
Well, copper is my pet hate.
Yeah. Oh, my sound.
It's funny because so many times, and there's so many people who are trying to reinvent the wheel, whether it's with molding design or interior design or kitchen design, where, I don't know, I think that there's a lot of things in our industry that work, and they work for a reason, and there's things that don't work and they don't work for a reason. And why is everyone looking to completely reinvent the wheel when the foundation's been laid for us? Like, I'm sure a lot of the basis for your cabinet design is based on traditional design elements where you didn't reinvent everything. And it's like everyone's always trying to be the next thing, the next trend, put something out that's never been seen before. Definitely. When you're doing more work than you need to. If you want something that's going to hold up, go look at molding designs from 150, 200 years ago that are still proportionately accurate and still work. And why are you now trying to change that all of a sudden?
Absolutely. But that is literally what Humphrey Munson about. We are classic, and classic means that it's going to last. You know, we're not looking to be, you know, in the colour. Yeah. Colours are different because you can paint the kitchen, and you know that's not the
well.
Not
it's the ultimate recyclable kitchen.
It is the ultimate recycle. Yeah. So you can repaint and whatever, but you know we are looking for longevity in the kitchen because we do have a lifetime guarantee on our kitchen, on our workmanship. So
you're not going to skate by that. I want to understand that. Because I know everyone that's listening is going to be like, wait a second, what do you mean lifetime?
What do you mean? Well, lifetime, lifetime guarantee on our workmanship.
Whose lifetime? Yours?
The lifetime of the kitchen. If we're around, then we're going to fix it. If it's a workmanship problem, absolutely. Yeah, if we've made a door wrong and it's like falling apart, God, I'd be very embarrassed.
Sure. Yeah, right.
B, I'd be round there right sharp,
right,
really quickly. Sorry. So we believe in what we do.
I think that's future proofing. Isn't just in terms of the design, how it looks. You have to, it's in terms of the quality. It's got to last.
Right.
That is so important. Quality that's what underpins everything that we do. The quality of the product and the quality of the service.
It's funny because we do a lot of trendy things in our projects, and because naturally the client pushes for it, right? And I envy the fact that you guys have this one image, and not every project, but we have a couple projects coming up right now, and one of them they showed me two pictures for the kitchen. One was the one we just did with the curved doors, and the other one was your kitchen.
Yeah.
And I said, wonderful. That kitchen was inspired by Humphrey Munson, so we're on the same page. We're good. But I think being able to narrow that focus like that, I want to go back a little bit again, and like where was that turning point? Because we talked out in the shop how, and you yell at him all the time for being a yes man and making emotional decisions. And
I don't yell.
Sorry.
Quiet word.
It's not just Louisa. It's probably the whole
the whole 50 of them, right? Yeah. But there's this, and I get it too. Like when I agree to. I forget what you said. The most intricate, elaborate. You went on, but.
Something complicated.
Right.
It's time consuming.
And he would say yes. And I would say yes. And then you get back to the office and that doesn't translate to the shop.
It's really hard to do that though with clients, because I spend a lot of time with clients, and when they ask you to do something, you instinctively want to say, yes, we can do that.
And I can't remember the last time I said, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I guess from 2007-ish, right, to 2019, the last 12 years, has it been this progressive climb, or has it been a lot of ups and downs? And like, what has kind of, equaled out to where you are with that?
So definitely the climb. And the one thing, and there is one thing that has really changed everything, changed the game, is staff. the people work
staff.
There. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that was one of the biggest pains is not hiring enough or the right people in the beginning?
No, because we wouldn't have been able to. We couldn't afford it. I mean, you can only grow. It's like buying tools,
machines,
right?
Yeah.
It's like the machines. You can't have everything. I mean, there's things now we would love as a company, like people.
Mm-hmm.
But, you've got to balance out, what we're getting in and what we're paying out, Wages are massive, they're a big thing. We have to really think about what we can do. We have to map it out and but that's what's happened. There's been a steady growth. That steady growth has been... It's
really organic, I think.
Very organic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and this is why I said to you out in the shop, you can't push it. You cannot make this quicker.
You don't want a boom and bust thing either. You don't want to suddenly blow up.
Right.
Because you can't,
And part of me feels, I mean...
We couldn't suddenly make another 60 kitchens a month.
Right.
So...
Yeah, we have to be very thoughtful about how we do things.
Hiring the right people is key.
It's everything, right? It's space, money. If you gave me all of those things now, I probably would make decisions, and everyone around me will know that I make decisions. I'm so into change. Change for me is my driving force. I want to be better. I want to, do this and do that and do this. But probably I'll get the money, do this, and I'm sure Louisa will contest to this, that, 6 months down the line, I'll be like,
don't want to do that anymore.
I don't want to do that anymore. I should have done it this way.
We have this thing at work called change fatigue, where the employees get so tired of the constant change, but they kind of come around to it now. They know that that's just the way of life. Yeah, you have to evolve, though. You do have to evolve.
Changing. I mean,
and learning.
as a company, as a small company, and now we're a medium size, I would say. We have changed, we've evolved, we've made mistakes, we've picked ourselves up, we've gone on, we've employed this person, we've employed that person. They've been wrong. They've left.
Critical hires is the key thing.
Yeah, without shadow. But how many people do you have to go through in order to get to an install manager?
Well, I would turn that question back to you. How many people do you think?
A few. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's a fair few. It's very, very hard to get the right person to do a job that you want to be done. Because, it's like everything. It doesn't matter. We can take on like an apprentice cabinet maker who's never done cabinetry before. In fact, we've just taken on someone who's never touched a piece of wood before. It doesn't matter about whether he's done it before. What matters is the willing and the want to do it.
Yeah.
This guy that we've just taken on is just absolutely phenomenal. He wants to be better. He wants to know more. He wants to, that's the thing you need throughout with everybody. It's that buy-in into the company.
I think the culture is so important, but also like the thing that I always say about when we're hiring people is it's the 3 Ps. And this is more important. You have to have the skill set. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to know what you're doing a bit. But you can basically, if you're it's positive, proactive, and problem solving. Those are the 3 things, the 3 Ps. If you find someone who's got those 3 things, they can learn anything. And the design team that we've got now, who are all, really dynamic, really engaged, really brilliant, love to cook and love to be in kitchens, and they all have those 3 qualities, and you can overcome anything. And it's the same with the workshop. But
not one of them has come to us as a kitchen designer. They've never done it before.
We don't hire kitchen designers.
We don't hire kitchen designers. We teach. We that's how we do it. It's like we do cabinetry. Like I was saying to you before about old dogs, new tricks, all that. It's like we want to be able to grow. As Humphrey Munson.
Yeah. I think that hiring those kids, right, or the apprentices or people that are coming in with zero understanding of what they're doing, but just the drive to do it.
Yeah.
And they want to be part of that's the thing with there's a great point when the company becomes big enough that it has its own culture.
Yeah.
And then you're all, they want to be part of it. And I think that's really cool.
Let me just put it, we don't just get people, we do, what I would prefer is college kids that have done a carpentry course, so they learn, they've had some learning with tools,
hand
they're
tools,
still
some
green.
skills.
They're still coming
that's
in.
My favourite, that's what I want.
Right, skip the basics, let's get into the
I think
as long as they've exactly, and then they can learn our way.
I think so much of that is kind of falling back on what you had mentioned with your organic growth of your company. I think that a lot of people try and force growth or try and get to that next level, or, you want to sell X amount more kitchens. And I think when you kind of work on internally what you want for your company, what you want for your brand, and create more of a long-standing brand, that growth is going to come naturally. And I think that, the mistakes that you make aren't going to be as detrimental to your company, because it's not like, hey, we're going to pump out 60 more kitchens this year, and now your mistakes are multiplied times 60. You make one mistake, it's going to be multiplied across the entire board. And I think that creating and controlling that growth on a smaller level, your company's going to wind up right where it's meant to be, rather than just like, hey, let's grow for growth's sake.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really agree with that mentality. It's just the worst thing to just force growth, because you have to learn and
you do have to
evolve.
Learn. I had a message off of somebody on Instagram. He'll probably listen to this, so I've got to. And he asked me the question about, how long we've been going and things like that. And, I said, it's about, 25 years, whatever we are. I can't remember what it is, 24. And he, because he said, want to be where you are and etc. And he said that, and I said, how long have you been going for? And he's like, been doing it for 2 years. And there's something that I just want to be able to tell people, there is no quick fix. You've got to do the yards. You've got to do the grit. You've got to do the pain and everything. You're not going to just literally be, I don't know what happened with Humphrey Munson. We were very lucky. What I know about Humphrey Munson is that I love what I do. The people that work with me and us as a company love what they do. That is the most important thing. You cannot buy that. You can't, I wasn't thinking, although I said, I want a kitchen company, but I never thought in my wildest dreams that we would be where we are. And I've never dreamt that. I've never dreamt that, all I wanted was, a kitchen company that, I could look at and say, yeah, that we did that, and people could look and say, oh, that was a Humphrey
Munson.
And
really proud.
And feel proud, yeah, absolutely. But because...
So you're saying that you're lucky to be where you are, but don't you think that the pride that you take and the love for your industry I feel like that directly relates to your product. So I don't think that, everything that you've done at this point, there's been a ton of hard work and you've put everything that you've had into it. And I don't think, maybe some things have lined up for you, but I think that it's translatable, and it's very obvious when you see your work that you're putting everything you have into that.
Thank you. The thing is, and the reason why I say it is because, a lot of people love what they do, and they do really love what they do. And there's a lot of cabinet makers out there that are doing an incredible job, and, and I look at things and, and there's lots of, but you've just got to believe in yourself, and that's what we've done. We've believed in ourselves as a company.
But you stay true to it as well.
And you stay true to it.
I think the fact that you have that original showroom kitchen still kicking around, and that's still true.
Well, no, that got sold.
Oh.
We sold that.
Wow. Well, you sold it,
Yeah.
but it moved.
You wouldn't believe how quickly we turn over our showrooms.
Do you sell the kitchens in the showroom?
Yeah, and Peter
I'm going to get it in the neck now.
It's notorious that our company, because we'll put it in. Oh, I think we should do this now. But it's only been in a year. Yeah, we'll sell it. We'll do another one. It's that
That's the owner mentality. Like I feel like,
but that's change. I mean, change is really good for. We cannot stand still. You know, I know other companies. I know other kitchen companies, and I know why a lot of them have failed, and they've rested on their laurels. You know, they got to a good stage, but they've just let it, go. They've not moved forward. I'm never going to do that.
No. So how are you continuing to move forward while still remaining loyal to your brand and the designs and everything else? Give us your secrets.
I tell you what the secret is just believing in what you do, and I'm never going to go off that path. I'm never going to go off Humphrey Munson as a whole. Yes, we've got some new stuff coming out, new ideas and stuff like that, but it's just stuff that I love.
I think the most surprising thing about Peter is when you get to know him is that you'd look at Humphrey Munson and you think, gosh, that's, it's such classic English design. It's so traditional, but he actually loves contemporary furniture. Loves it. And a lot of the reason I think that the brand has really connected and resonated with people is that they see this classic design done in a way that's quite fresh and quite crisp and quite clean, and you're really appealing to people's desires to live in a way that's organized and uncluttered and calm, because their home is their sanctuary, the world outside is mad, and they just want to shut the door and escape. And that, I think, is the most surprising thing that people, when clients realize how much Peter likes, loves contemporary kind of design, it's almost like, oh, really?
I'm actually glad that you touched on that, because the English design is apparent in your kitchens, but I also feel like when I see, I'm not going to name other brands, but other brands of English kitchens, it's almost a little bit sloppy, and it's like super rustic, and I don't think it's quite as clean as what you guys put out. And I feel like it's almost deliberate a lot of times that they make it like it's going in these old English buildings where the floors are out and like the scribes aren't tight and something is moved, and like the way that the sink fits isn't even that super tight. And I feel like you guys do have that English styling, but it's way cleaner than most English kitchens.
I'd love for you guys to come and see Peter and James, who's our production manager, and Steve, who's our workshop manager, and see the three of them agonizing over
Instagram.
How perfect they can get things. Like that's what, and how crisp and how clean they can get it.
But that's what makes it fun.
But I feel like most English kitchens aren't like that. Like I see other brands of them, and it's like, oh my God, why is that like that?
Yeah, but a lot of that is kind of in the design for them, and and I would never put anyone down, because literally everyone's got their place and everyone's got their thing. They're doing their thing, and it's good, and it's what we do, and that's all I'm interested in is
it's like a refined.
Yeah, but we're just trying to be the best that we can be, and also give the client the best that they can have. We're not, if there's one thing that we are going to do is we're going to get better. We're going to be far, far, far better.
But I think that's the thing with business is you are only in competition, and it's a bit like being a person. You're only in competition with yourself. You want to be the best version of yourself all the time. There's things you can work on yourself personally. Same with the business. You're only competing with yourself, because what everyone else is doing, everyone else is at a different stage. That some are ahead, some are behind. And what is the race anyway? So really, when you put your blinkers on and then you don't look at what anyone else is doing and all you do is what you do, it becomes, to us, it's not really a thing. But I think that these guys, what they do, when I see them going into the showroom and looking at things and can we change this and do this, it's that love for what they do, the real passion for cabinet making. That's really what...
Yeah, because we're not, if there's ever a problem, even it being the smallest little thing, or even if there's not a problem, we're just constantly looking.
But they love problem solving.
Yeah, we do. I mean, that's my favourite thing. If there ever is a great thing, it's for me. I love problem solving. Yeah. I love thinking, how can we do this better? How can we think about,
That's actually why I took the belt off. Because I was a carpenter forever. And, obviously my business grew, but I realized that I liked the problem solving more than actually physically doing it, because I could focus more, and watching my guys do it, that was just as gratifying.
Yeah.
But helping them problem solve and helping them get through, or pointing out a mistake and showing them how we can fix it.
Yeah.
Or just making them rip it off the wall. I mean,
so going into that, and this is another thing that I've had to really battle with, and that's that whole thing of is like being commercial. So you've got to be problem solving, but you've got to be commercial at the same time. That has been a big journey for me, huge journey.
What do you mean by commercial?
Well, it's not costing the company, thousands of pounds, and that, you're doing it in a way that it's...
You're not going in just, spending all the profit on making it like absolutely perfect.
No, because we're there to at the end of the day, we're a business, right? We've got to make profit. We've got to, because we're never going to be able to move forward if we don't. We're going to stay stale. Profit makes the company
static.
Big. Yeah, static, yeah. Exactly, sorry, yeah.
We use stale over here.
Huh?
We use stale over
and
here.
static.
He means static.
Oh.
Yeah, static. She knows what I mean, more than I know what I mean. She's been telling my story for such a long time. So it's you've got to. We're running businesses. We've got to be commercial. We've got to. That's a huge battle.
It is, yeah.
For a company owner, without a shadow of a doubt.
Especially when you're creative.
Yeah, and you're creative.
Your intuition is to... Yeah.
No.
To be a creative and a businessman, they literally don't mix, really. I don't think. It's you really have to battle at it.
I think you do a good job.
Thank you.
Tyler, I think that's one of the, you and I chat about it all the time. It's like you're in a position where you have Steve and then a new hire, but to balance that, perfect and being, as Peter says, commercial, like that's so hard.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I would say it's 99% personality type. If you have the personality type where you want to hit everything full stride and reach your max potential, and you have difficulty walking away from something when it's not the best that you can do, or leaving something that could be better, I could be way more profitable as a contractor if I had less eyes on the job, or if I were able to let things slide. And I think that that's part of growth for me. Will be able to put myself in a position where we're still maintaining high standards, but I'm able to back off some and let other people perform to their best of their ability, and that's okay.
Definitely.
But
and interestingly enough, with that in mind, I've done that. I've moved away, and I'm letting other people take the reins, and et cetera, et cetera. But then they're going to be, even our fitters, to our installers, they put in a kitchen, and they'll see something that they don't like that they've done. They'll then be critical, and then they'll do it, and then they've got to learn. And it's an ongoing kind of thing. Sure. It's a very hard thing to get away from, I think. It
also takes a long time for so the one guy I have working for me, he's been with me for a little over 2 years, and we self-perform a lot of trades. So we're not just doing cabinetry, we're not just doing trim work. So for him to get to a point where he's experienced enough to start noticing all of those little details and nuances, it's going to take a long time. And then when he's good enough to be able to pick up on those mistakes and then figure out how to fix them or problem solve them, it's going to take even longer. So it's tough bringing people in, which I'm sure on the greener side of things. And we don't have a production line. We don't have an assembly line. We don't have stations. It's just like get in and start doing it. So it's tough to get to that point where everyone knows, and I can then back off and say, okay, make your own mistakes and then fix them.
It's without shadow, we're in a very blessed position. We are lucky to be in the position that we're in and be able to do what we do, and to be able to take people who are green on and let them make mistakes, and because everybody has to.
From the employee standpoint, do you have like a system in place as for instance, you hire an apprentice? Is there an outline like, all right, you're an apprentice, this is what's expected of you, and this is how you progress? Or is it, is it more nonchalant than that?
It's kind of, we don't have a kind of set way.
Mm-hmm.
There's no set way. But, and I don't think there can be because, every apprentice is different.
Mm-hmm.
Some people take things on a lot quicker than the other people and you just, people are people, right? So...
I ask because that's what I'm battling now, is that I have multiple positions, multiple roles, and multiple levels, and I feel as though some of them are in a position where they don't know what's expected of them, and it's on me, and it's so I'm in it.
One of the things that I think is so important about hiring people, and we've learnt this through not doing this, is the more that you can set out clearly what someone's job is, and explain in really explicit detail what's expected of them, you get the best out of them. And the training that time that you can give them, it's so hard to do. And, I think the people that always swim are the ones that can get on and can be proactive and think, oh, well, they didn't tell me to do that, but it kind of looks like something that I could A, do, and B, that needs doing. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Mm-hmm. Those are the people that will always, go far.
Yeah.
I'm where you are when you weren't doing it, because that's what I'm not doing. And the more conversations I have, and we sit down at 6 months and in 1 year, and like the reviews and just kind of chatting and seeing how people are doing, that's becoming more and more relevant.
Definitely, we do that. I mean, as a company,
I think the more that you can do that in the first year that someone works for you, the better.
Yeah.
And feedback, I've learned, the whole feedback sandwich. Here's something good, here's something bad, here's something good. Soften the blow. But it's really important. I think that's the most important thing. When you see someone doing something and recognizing their input, recognizing what they've tried to do, even if it didn't work out, just recognizing their effort, and then, letting someone know when they haven't done something right. And then, but I think one thing that we've been really careful about, certainly with the people that report directly to me, so this is not in the workshop obviously, but it's the fact that you can say to people, you've made a mistake, it's okay, we'll fix it. We can fix anything, but you'll never do it again.
Right.
But you really have to have that conversation. And sometimes it's really hard because people get really upset if they've made a mistake, and it's really, they feel it really, it's a horrible thing.
That, Tyler, good timing, because like we just had this conversation where when people do mess up, I have my attitude doesn't change. It's like, you made a mistake, like, let's just outline what happened.
Yeah.
This isn't a big deal. Like, everything is correctable.
Yeah, exactly. You can fix
even the very worst case scenario, like, it's still fixable, right?
Yeah.
Like,
everything's figure outable.
Figure outable.
Yeah.
We don't use that one over here.
No.
But it's having that conversation, and you're absolutely right. It's hard, but it's super important, because it's like, so listen, important. And that's what I try to pride myself on, is that I don't want to attack. I've worked for people that immediately, like, you mess up, you're an idiot. Like, don't do that again. Like, what do you think? Like, yelling and screaming. I've learned not to do that.
No,
by having someone yell at me.
No one's going to want to work for you if you do that, right?
No.
So it's, you have got to be, being in charge, if you like.
Because ultimately, I made those mistakes. You made those mistakes.
Of course, absolutely.
And you probably made them 3 times when he's making them 1.
Yeah.
And, immediately you're like, how could you do that? But you're like, wait a second, I probably did that 3 times. So let me just pull this back down.
It's all about being fair, right? You've got to understand, and, I'm really of the mind that, people have got to make their own mistakes. They're not going to learn from my mistakes. They're going to...
No, you can't stop them midway. You can't you can't stop it before it happens, because then they're just going to expect that you're going to help, prevent them from tripping.
Yeah.
No, I also think that you don't really retain it at that point. If I say, hey, watch, this is where you're going to get hung up, and then they don't get hung up and things go seamlessly, they're not going to retain that for the next time. It's like, if they get hung up on their own, or they make the mistake, or somebody has to have a sit down with them. Hey, you made this mistake. It's fine. This is what we need to do to fix it. And like, I think that you're going to retain that much more than just saying, hey, you're going to run into this issue if you're not careful.
Yeah.
I think as well, like the hardest thing, I think when, you know, you've got people that make a mistake in this world is that it ends up being really costly. You know, if we're doing a job that's a 6-hour drive away and the fitter leaves one thing that's not been like, you know, we call it snagging in England. I don't know what you call it here.
Snagging?
Yeah, it's like when you've got little bits left to do at the end and you just go round and whip round and do them.
Punch list.
Punch list.
Yeah, punch list.
Yeah.
So if you've got one thing that's left and then he drives 6 hours back to Essex and then the client rings up and says, oh, but that door, and it's got to go back again. And that's very, very costly. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does.
It can be anything.
6 hours is far.
But yeah,
we
go all over, you know, we're nationwide, but, you know.
Those mistakes, I think, are the toughest to swallow.
But we're talking about, you know, even if a screw is missing out of a hinge.
You've got to go back.
You've got to go back.
No, I understand. I just,
you know, it's.
I guess my reaction was I didn't realize that you drove that far for your install.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll go anywhere in England, yeah.
Oh, UK mainland, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't travel every day. We'll do digs, obviously, but we do, yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, like Tyler said, that those are the worst because it's like, how did you forget that?
Yeah.
You knew you were out there, or you know, it's when you like.
But then that's what I think is so important about, you know, with the cabinet makers when they go on site. That's something that we really want to be able to do is for them to go out on site because they have to understand how hard it is to be on site. It's exhausting. They work really long hours. They're under a lot of pressure. You know, they're human. Things do get missed occasionally and they have to go back.
I've just got to say, because they might be listening,
I think
they will listen. They're not the ones that are going to be forgetting it all the time.
No.
Everybody. There's so many people.
No,
I'm
not. No, God, I'm not saying that at all.
It's not just the installation team.
The fitters are amazing.
Shout out to you guys.
I think that they do an amazing job and they do a really hard job being away and, you know.
But, you know.
But you're absolutely right. Having the cabinet makers out on site and the site guys in the shop, you're able
There's an appreciation there.
Right.
Yeah.
To kind of pick up, oh, I didn't realize that if I just did this in the shop, it would make your job easier.
And then, you know, talking about that, and I'm just going to bring it out quite quickly, but, you know, it's all about being a family, you know. What we did struggle with at one point was, you know, workshop guys and install guys, and they're all, you know, they're not against each other. There's a bit of friction, or, you know, and then there's the management team, and it's like, you know, we all have to work together for the cause, right? We, you know,
we're all on the same side.
Yeah, we're on the same team, but that's what we've got right now. But that took ages. That took a while to kind of get that kind of.
So that leads right into. We briefly touched on in the beginning is your process, and we talked about it out in the shop, right?
Yeah.
So your process has been constantly evolving, but it's very thorough.
Yeah.
And I think understanding that, like, that would be interesting to chat. Like, it starts obviously with someone coming to you, I want to build a kitchen.
Yeah.
Outline kind of what those steps are all the way to the point where tops are going on.
So if I let Louisa, because Louisa is kind of client-facing right now, doing most of the client-facing.
Creative director, right?
Creative director. Yeah. But she's also meeting most of the clients and then...
not all of them, but a lot of them.
A lot of them. You know.
In terms of the starting point, people come to us, they want to design a kitchen. They want us to design a kitchen. And we do a design consultation. We either do that on site, in our showroom or over the phone. And that's really for us to take a brief from the client so that we understand what's important to them. There's all the kind of stuff that you need to know, like what appliances do they want to put in, whether they want a range cooker or eye-level ovens.
That's initial consult.
Yeah. And then, you know, there's certain things that we'll just need to know, like how many dishwashers do you want, that kind of thing, so that we can see if we can get them in. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes the list is so long.
So we're not massively going into the design details, right?
So it's just a consultation. The whole point of the consultation really for us is to understand how they live, how they want to use the space and the nuances of their lives. Because you can take a family of 4 and it's completely different. You know, you can take 4 families of 4 and they're all completely different. So that's really, for us, that's what the design consultation is all about. Then we would take all of that information and prepare drawings. So we do a plan and elevation drawings and a quotation, and then we would meet with the client in the showroom, and that meeting has to take place in the showroom. We walk them through the design kind of concept, and it's just really a concept at that point. That's our starting point to collaborate with the client and move ahead and develop the design.
After that initial consult, you guys are on the same page. You kind of have their wish list. Are you guys signing an agreement?
No, so we would prepare drawings and a quotation.
Free of cost?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. We don't release any work, any drawings.
That's why it comes into the showroom.
Yeah.
I got you.
So they come in and view the drawings.
But it's not just, they come into the showroom so we can then show them drawings, but we can also say, you know, this cabinet, this is what you're having.
Right.
But, you know, this is...
But you're also protecting yourself by that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. I think that designing a kitchen is really personal, and the most important thing to anyone who's wanting to design a kitchen is to work with a company that you feel comfortable with. And that might be Humphrey Munson or it might not. And you should feel like you're comfortable with that, with the person that you're dealing with, the company that you're dealing with. There's a lot of trust that goes into it. And it's a big leap of faith, you know, to say to someone, you know, I trust you to design this kitchen and I know it's going to be amazing. And that's a big thing. So it's really important for us that we work with people that understand. You know, I think we're pretty straightforward. We're very open about costs. We'll always do an estimate if people aren't sure, and like we'll do a consultation. They'll say, well, you know, I don't really have a budget and I don't really know like where on earth this is going to come out. I've never done this before. It's a huge renovation. We've got a lot of other building costs to take into account. Right. And so we'll always do an estimate in that case before we do any drawing work, so that they know ballpark it's going to be this. And then, you know, I think most people are really straightforward. You know, they don't want to waste your time. I hear that a lot. People say, you know, I don't want to waste your time, but, you know, I really want a Humphrey Munson kitchen. I'm just worried, you know, about the money. And so that we do think that that's really important to be straightforward about costings. We do
ask for a budget.
Yeah, we do talk. You have to be able to talk about money right from the beginning, because it's a huge part of the process. There's the three most important things are how the kitchen is going to work, how much it's going to cost, and how long is it, you know, what's the timeline.
Right.
Those 3 things will dictate so much.
That's the same thing here in the US. That's the same thing here in the US. We're on the same page.
Yeah. I think, and then in terms of then the rest of the process, if a client wants to go ahead and commission the work, they would pay a commissioning deposit, and then we would then commence kind of the development of the design. So that's really where you're getting into the nitty gritty, you know, where are the pots and pans going to go? Where are the glasses going? Do you have champagne glasses that are enormous?
Colours, finishing,
yeah,
right.
And all the design details.
We don't go into that until
you have
until we're commissioned.
Because like Peter said earlier, that is kind of it's the easy bit for us. It's not easy for clients.
No.
You know, that's not easy. It's not an easy thing to choose the colours and get the flooring. It's a huge amount of money. And, you know, people really feel the pressure to get it right because they're spending so much money. And I think one of the things that's connected us with so many clients and the brand really resonates with people is that they can see that it's something that's going to last. They can see that it's something that's going to, you know, really stand the test of time design-wise.
I think that's cool. Like you mentioned getting into, once you're commissioned, do you have champagne glasses? Do you have, and going through all of
and
that?
It takes hours. I mean, it's a long meeting.
But I feel like that is all, like, that's missed so much. And we're building a really big kitchen right now, actually the one in the shop. And they spec'd out, you know, utensil drawers and pots and pan storage and a pegboard for their plates. And I just emailed back. I said, can I just have them? Can I just have your, like, one fork, one knife, one spoon? Like, let's build it for that. You know, why can't we, rather than making something that, you know, has...
We don't go that far. Everyone will be coming in with a cutlery drawer.
No, but I mean...
Here's an example of my... No, but it's true. You do have to take those things into account because things that people put into their kitchens are also different. You know, some people have these sets of Le Creuset pots, and they'll have like 15 different pots, and they're really, really heavy.
And that's what I'm getting. It's like build this massive kitchen or a kitchen, and then it's like, all right, now where do I put stuff? It's like, wait, now you're thinking about that?
That should have been done, yeah. But that's what we think about.
People move into their kitchen, when they've got a Humphrey Munson kitchen, they move in and they know where everything's going. And I love that. I think, and it's, I always say to clients, I'm really pedantic about those things, because you hate the idea that someone's going to move in to a new house or have a new kitchen and then be disappointed that we didn't talk about
the worst is when you don't have, it's like, all right, I have this one pot, it doesn't fit anywhere,
throw it out, just throw the pot.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like never until that is my
give it to Aunt Sally.
Trying to figure out that's my nightmare. I don't know who does that for your company, but I don't even want to do that in my own kitchen. It's just like put it wherever.
You just need to edit, Tyler.
I'm getting the sweats thinking about that. Like, where are you going to put your utensils? I don't even know where I put my utensils.
Yeah, but that's to be honest with you, that's what makes a great kitchen designer, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Someone that actually cooks.
Someone who cooks, someone who it's like, I love to cook. I love to be in the kitchen.
Me
too.
I love to think that I can cook. I wish I could cook.
Yeah, I probably can't, but I can do beans on toast. No.
You can cook.
I can cook. I'm all right. But that's what, if you're to be a designer, you've got to be able to cook. You've got to be able to stand in
all
that kitchen.
All the designers listening right now are like, I'm gonna have to take a cooking class.
Our designers are
I interviewed someone once, and I really hope they're not listening. But anyway, I interviewed someone. I said, "Oh, so do you like to cook?" "Oh God, no, I can't cook a thing." And then said, "Oh, I'll burn an egg if I boiled it or something." I was, "Oh, great! You can make a great kitchen designer."
But the best thing, going back to that, I love a client that will take the drawings after it's been commissioned, of course, and then just scribble all over it, and then they'll go, spend a weekend we've got this, we've got that, we're going to throw that away, we're going to use it, and then come back to us, and then we have a big conversation, and then we're like,
and then they order a massive dresser because there's not enough room in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's not why.
I'm just kidding.
But that is definitely part of our job, to make sure that
it works.
It works. Because God, if we put in a kitchen and they can't get in what they've got, then we've done a real poor job.
I think a really important part of the process for us, when we come to the end of the design stage, we do this big meeting. We call it the design details meeting. That's when we confirm everything. That's when we go through everything, every nuance and pernickety detail of that kitchen. It's exhausting. And then at the end, we have a kind of sense check where we kind of saying, what's missing? Is there anything missing? And then I always think to myself, if we had another 10 grand or 20 grand spent, what would we do? And at that point, you've really got to, when I'd say to a client, I think this is great, but I'm worried about where this is going to go. Or, is there anything else that you've got that's going into this kitchen that we haven't talked about? Because those are the things that are going to drive you mad when you move in. Right. And I think that's the thing, when we go back to clients' houses afterwards and we speak to them, they always say, I love it, it just works. And I think that you can only get to that point when you go into the detail before you've made it. Because
it isn't just about the design and them loving it. They're going to do that. That's a given, I think. It's literally them saying that, like, this kitchen really works, and we couldn't think of doing something better in here.
So
that's a great thing.
From a functionality and design standpoint, you said that kind of determining where all of those little things are going is at the end. So are you guys laying out your entire kitchens and then it's like, okay, here's what you want to put in your kitchen, kind of based off standards, and then trying to figure out how to make all of that stuff fit into your existing boxes? Because I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. I feel like, I guess, where is the right time to kind of bring all of those little custom details into the design, because they would affect your layout, but at the same time, you don't want to base your layout off that.
I think
no. So your layout's going to be there from the beginning, right? So we're going to be thinking about most of these things anyway. You're thinking where the
utensils and cutlery is going.
We're going to be thinking about these way before they've even thought about it, because you've got to. But it's then their personal kind of input that's then going to,
But there's things that about your clients that's what you get from the design consultation. So if you've got, a young couple and they've got toddlers, and they're designing this kitchen, they've never really done it before, they won't be thinking about the fact that they don't want to, like, I would never want to see someone cross a room holding a pan of boiling water to drain it. So you want to have the sink really close to the stove so that you can just, often it'll be on an island or as a prep sink or the main sink or just along from it, because that's what you know about that client. And they might not have thought of that, but those are the kinds of things where you just build up this kind of, I guess.
So what it is at the end of the day, and we say this over and over again, it's a story.
Mm.
So it's the story of that kitchen. That's what we say over and over again. And that's, what I say to the design team, to be a good designer, you need that story. You've got to be able to know how that
you're envisioning them living there.
Exactly.
I think you brought up a good point about if you had $10,000 or $20,000 more, what would you do? And I think we play that a lot on our renovation side, where it's like, we have X amount for a budget. Okay, great. And, we're kind of going through, and then we get to a point where we know we're over budget, but, we talk about, if you did have the extra money, what is important to you? Like, what items, is worth extending now, which would only cost more later if we were to do another renovation. And I think it could be transferred into a kitchen where it's, you spend the $10,000 more now, you really enjoy your kitchen, or you save the $10,000 and then spend $10,000.
This is elsewhere. What I always say this to clients in the right at the beginning, either in the design consultation or if I'm speaking to them on the phone. And this is what the design team will always fixate on initially when they're designing that initial concept, that there's no material compromise. So you might have the budget to do this amazing, we call it an everyday pantry. You kind of open it up, it's got a cold shelf, 5 drawers, 3 shelves.
I'm familiar.
You're familiar with it. Spice racks on the door. But you can also do a version of that where you just do shelves and there's no drawers and there's no cold shelf, but there's still spice racks. And that's what I would describe as that kitchen would not have a material compromise. The budget is reduced because it's not so complicated. Obviously, drawers are more expensive than doors. And the quartz is expensive. So you're giving them still a pantry, but it's not the big, expensive one,
right.
All the bells and whistles. It's the kind of the more simplistic version of that. And I think that where you're designing a kitchen, you really want to make sure that there aren't any material compromises. And if there is, I would always say that to a client. I would always be really straight about it and say, there isn't anywhere in this kitchen to put glassware at the moment. That's something that we I'm not comfortable with that,
right.
Because you're going to get into this kitchen and you're not going to have this is going to be the reality.
Right.
And you have to be, I think, actually being straightforward about things like that and just giving it to people straight and not trying to skirt around it is really it just helps for sure.
What's that time frame from the time that you get commissioned to the time where they approve your design?
Completely depends on their project timeline.
Of course.
So if it's quick, and by quick I mean like 4 months, 6 months, I'd say 4 to 6 months, we can turn around from the commission to signing everything off in a week.
So on average, from the time you get commissioned to the time that you are done with the kitchen?
On average, I would say it'd be about 6 to 8 weeks.
To the time you're completed?
Yeah, on a job that's like a renovation or a
you're talking about
design, right? You're
just
saying
design. Getting to the end of the design stage.
No, so once
I switched gears from commission to the time like the kitchen's installed and complete and they're using it.
So depending on how much the client is, knows what they want. If a client comes in and they know what they want, we can turn that.
Yeah, but on average,
there is no average. Really, there really isn't.
So what if somebody came to you and said, I want a kitchen, what's like the minimum lead time that you would say we can't turn a kitchen around in like 8
14
weeks?
to 16 weeks would be the minimum, I would say.
Okay.
Realistically, because we would...
Do you mean from that initial...
Yeah, to the end. To beginning the install, yeah.
And not to the begin of install.
Not to the end of install.
Yeah.
So we would go design process. That's phase 1. Get to the end of the design stage. You sign off the drawings. You sign off your project order.
Are these shop drawings or just design drawings?
design drawings.
And then
2D.
Shop drawing doesn't go until it goes into production,
Yeah.
so that will be done after. So the design details will all be done. Then the design team will then put all the details onto the drawings, everything like that, and then they go to production, and production then do the.
So phase 1 is design. Phase 2, and to get to phase 2, clients have to sign off on everything, on their design details, project order, etc. Then we hand over from design to project management, and then they become the main point of contact. And then they would prepare the service drawings for the M&E drawings, and then they arrange the site surveys, and then they work down towards phase 3, which is install, and then it gets.
Are you
fitted.
doing site survey after plaster? If you can, or is it?
We say so screed and plasterboard is what we want.
Yep.
Yeah. So floor screed down and plasterboard, because then we can. You're only going to go 3 mil or whatever. But also the contractor will tell us. We do ask these questions. We've got to ask lots of questions when we're on site. But it's that's where it gets into a real nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And the project management team get in, and they're fantastic.
And that's when you've got to have the really good people.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they have to know their onions.
Yeah.
If you know, yeah.
Because I think that's the thing. You can't, you can't just have one piece that's good. They've all got to be good.
Right.
You've got to go from design to manufacturing at our end, and then project management on site, and then into installation. And those 3 pieces have to be, or 4 pieces have to be perfect. But actually the linking part, the handover between each stage is so important as well. And like we were talking about earlier with the fitters and the workshop and everyone being on the same team, that's really important. And understanding the impact of what they're doing on the next person.
So we'll have literally when it comes from the design team, there'll be a massive handover. There'll be 10, 12 people in the room, all the managers, from production to project management to install to delivery to this to that, all knowing what's going to go on. We run through that job. So we run through all the different kind of bespoke elements and this and that, and to make sure that nothing gets left. Because if everyone knows,
right,
and everyone knows the story of that,
and it's a really frank exchange of
because
and that's really important. You have to be able to be really straight with your co-workers, and give and package the project has to move from design to project management and then on in a way that makes it as easy as possible for the person picking up the...
Right, it can't be, all right, it's going out for install, but we're still fabricating over here this portion of the kitchen, so that will go out later.
Oh, God,
that would never happen.
Never.
And same thing with design, if we tried to hand something over to our project manager and there was still things to be confirmed, he'd just say, well, why are you handing this
we'll
over?
have the big handover, but that's, a lot of the times production will be going, well, you've drawn this bar, and we've drawn this. So then that'll go back to the design team. They might have to just do a few tweaks.
Sure.
So,
we have changed that though. We don't really have that problem anymore.
no, we don't. It's not a problem. No, I mean it's catching things, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, this is our biggest thing, and I think as a company, I think everybody should, whatever company you're in, it's the next person. It's how you hand it on to the next person, to the next person, to the next person.
Yeah,
it's being really invested in that,
So if it was like a kitchen remodel, there was an existing kitchen there, and you were tearing that kitchen out and putting a new kitchen in, your design's going to start prior to removing that kitchen?
Yeah, so we wouldn't remove a kitchen. So, but if I don't even know the percentage, we're very low.
So basically, I guess what I'm getting at, your preliminary design for these customers is while they still have a functioning kitchen, right?
Yeah.
So then,
for those jobs where it's a refurbishment, it's about a third.
But I mean, 2/3 we're normal. I'd say more. I'd say kind of 80%, 85% are going into either new builds or extensions, or we there's not many kitchens that we do where there's a rip out of a kitchen and then we're putting in another kitchen. We do them, obviously. I'm not saying that we don't, but the majority of our work is in the bigger projects where there are these new houses going up, or extensions or orangeries.
So
building
then
homes from scratch is
in the
really
case of
big in England at the moment.
A new build, you'd be designing the kitchen off of plans, and then
way off a plan, yeah.
And
All
then
of the
you're going to go
kitchens and
through
all
for a final design once everything is basically plastered and your floors are screeded. You're going to go through with a fine-tooth comb and alter anything that you need to.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, say, for instance, there's this wonderful job that we're on at the moment, and I think I put it on Instagram. I went down to it. It's a lovely, big, new house, but it's just Georgian, just gorgeous. And we've been kind of 3 years in the running since we first dealt with these clients. Lovely clients. And we drew the design off of the architect spec. Very good architect. We knew that we weren't going to be far off of it anyway. And actually, it's very true. What would then happen is we wouldn't go into the design details, as in the colours and things like that, until we're closer to actually installing.
Yeah,
So it'd be
20 weeks away.
It was about 14 weeks prior to install. Then we'll do the kind of final sign off of the design. But we will check the building, before. As soon as the screed's down, the walls are up. We'll come in, we'll measure up, and just make sure everything fits. That's all we're doing really, is just a sense check, because we've done all the work, way before on the design consultation.
Some of the job, I think one of the things that's it's not unusual about the way we work, but some of the jobs we work on are on such a short time frame, and then some of them it's years. So you have these massive hiatuses where nothing really happens for us. We do a lot of design work up front. The clients agree it, and then we just wait for them to build the house.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this year alone, we've got, I don't know how many, quite a few like houses that we've been involved in for like 3 years, 2 years. And
when you start to see them come to fruition, they've been on the design, the tracker for so long.
I wouldn't even do that anymore. Like, what were we thinking when we designed that?
Actually, funnily enough, the project that Peter just mentioned, it's really amazing, and we're working on it with Westbury, which is a company that we work with a lot in England, and the architects are amazing. And actually, when you went down there with Nathan, who's one of our designers, there's nothing changing about the design.
Oh, nothing at all. No.
And I think that's a testament to the future-proofing idea that we kind of talked about earlier, this idea that you're creating something that's going to stand the test of time. There's kitchens that, actually, if you go back to right at the beginning where we were talking about that advert Peter mentioned in that magazine, people come in with it up to a few years ago, that still looks fantastic. It doesn't look out of date, and it doesn't look, like, oh God, I wouldn't do that now. There's things about it that have evolved, but ultimately it's a really future-proof design. And I think that considering it was 2016 that we first met with these clients, and their kitchen's going to be installed at the end of this year.
That's super cool.
It's really, really incredible.
Yeah, they don't.
We've brought out some new colours since then, and I think they're still sticking with what they chose originally.
Yeah.
Bubblegum pink, right?
Yeah, with a purple.
Yeah,
purple
so I guess
perimeter.
my head was going even towards smaller jobs where I guess it would be tough for you guys on a schedule, if it were just like a remodel that...
I love those jobs though.
But
I love a refurb job.
But isn't that tough for you guys at that point if you're fabricating cabinets once walls and floors are in, that like basically they're without a functioning kitchen for so much longer? Like what we have to do here, if it's on a small job, is we basically measure everything, and cabinets are like on site prior to even pulling, or right after demolition when you're framing. So you're trying to design around all of those constraints and trying to nail that design and get the cabinets into production. So by the time you rip the kitchen out, you can get it put back together and then get the cabinets in without having your walls up and then waiting for cabinets to get made, which just, it adds to the complexity there.
In England at the moment, what usually happens is when people are doing a new kitchen, they'll do the floor, and the floor is really messy, and there's all the building work's really messy before we get to put the kitchen in, and they often will just move out and they'll go and get an Airbnb, or they'll just
But you know,
deal with it.
there's no pain without gain. You know, no gain without pain. You know, clients really do understand, and if they don't, then they're not the right clients. Or you know,
and I had said that earlier too. It's like I feel like over, you know, in the U.S., it's just everything is so schedule driven. I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
And like Tyler said, like we were doing a massive addition on this project. And we measured for cabinets before plaster was in, and before finished floor was in,
before rough-ins are in a lot of times, you know.
Yeah, before roughs, and it's like we were through approved shop drawings before I had plaster.
How do you manage that?
We're assuming that the plaster is going to be 5/8 of an inch.
And then even like your layouts with everything, it's so tough.
What you're talking about there, we'll come up against, because obviously we're not the contractors, obviously the builders are doing their bit, obviously you guys are doing it, and you can kind of hopefully make it right for yourselves. But you know, we're using the client's contractors. One way we do get around it, or get not around it, but one way we do work it is that we get a sign off from the builder,
right?
And we say, and we give them a drawing, and we say, we need this space. Are you okay to sign that off and give us that? You know, and 9 times out of 10 they'll do that. Sometimes they won't. But if that's the case, then there's always going to be the lead time, because we can't magic a kitchen, and we're not going to make something if we don't know that it's going to fit. You know, we can't take that responsibility. It's not
Yeah, we didn't even
it's not realistic.
We didn't even get into that. You have an entire process to kind of protect. Right?
Absolutely.
And you make sure that everyone's on the same page, especially from a schedule. So you guys have part of your contract is that, you mentioned schedule is very important. So your client comes to you and they say, my builder's going to have my kitchen ready in February. What is that process to make sure that, that builder hits that February date?
From us, not.
From you guys, yeah.
It's not really. Their date is going to be driven by their client. We can only inform because
you guys track data on it, though.
Yeah, we track it, absolutely. Yeah, and we say, in order to be in this date, we need this done and this done and this done.
Yes, we would always give clients like an initial project timeline. That I think one of the hardest things about designing kitchens is it's not just about designing kitchens, it's about managing the project. And the designers have to manage the project before they hand over to the project management team, because they manage the middle bit, the site relations, dealing with contractors, etc. We would always give clients an initial kind of, if a client said, right, we're going to be ready for the kitchen in February, and we have a discussion about what being ready means. And then we would do an initial timeline and say, okay, in order to, like Peter said, in order to get to that point, this is what we need to do by this date, this, et cetera, et cetera. Provide as much information as we can to the client and to their builder about what we need to be able to do to get to these points. So, for example, to do the pre-production survey, what we need, et cetera. And then just by providing as much information as you can, and by being as open and transparent as you can get to the point where you can have a pretty honest exchange of views about whether that's really realistic or not. And sometimes those dates will move back.
But it's about everyone being honest, right?
Right.
Because that is the problem, and that's the thing that's the thing that really, it's like the yes man. The client wants it dearly wants it for February.
Right.
So the builder...
Or to be in for Christmas.
That's the best one.
Christmas.
That's the best
Christmas.
one.
We had a whole podcast on the Christmas rush.
We don't get involved.
What is it about Christmas that makes people...
But this is the whole thing, though. It's the same thing. February, Christmas, whatever. It's like, if something's to be done correctly, there has to be a reality. There has to be everybody has to be on the right page and make sure that everybody's telling the truth. Because a lot of people won't. They'll do exactly what you do.
You don't want, you wouldn't, as a client, the one thing, and I've had this with quite a few clients this is the best attitude to have is, I just want the contractors to do a good job and I don't want to put pressure on them because otherwise they're just going to bodge it. And I think when clients understand that, there can be outside pressures. Doing renovations is a huge amount of money. If people are moving out of their house and they're renting a house for 6 months, they want to move back into their house in 6 months, right? Because they don't want to keep paying rent. But you've got to have contingency, just like you have to have contingency with your budget. Everyone knows that building projects go over budget. I've never heard of a building project not going over budget ever.
Or time, and that, you know, if
because naturally we're optimistic.
That contingency. Yeah,
but it's just you know, it's I can't remember what I was going to say now, but it's you know, it is just being truthful, and if everybody can be truthful, then everyone's on the right page, and you know, no one's getting hurt from it, because if people aren't truthful, everybody gets hurt from it. The contractor gets it in the neck from the client gets upset, and then
it's so stressful,
and it can be so stressful.
I always say, like,
for clients, I mean,
the worst thing that we can do is, you know, miss their expectation to complete a job and be super proud about it, only for the client to be ticked off that we were over budget, or we were over schedule, or we didn't say we didn't finish what we were going to finish. And it's like we spent the better part of a year in most of our projects busting our butt for this job, only to then never have a relationship with them.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have a client right now that they moved out of their house for a year, and naturally we need more time.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to take it prior. I said, no, we didn't need it. Then I needed it, and I asked for it, and it wasn't there anymore. And he pulled me aside and he explained, he's like, listen, I'm being very honest with you. We don't have the option to extend our lease. The house needs to be done. So, internally we need to figure out how to get it done and make them happy, because I don't want to let them down after, moving for 12 months. But at the same time, we need to balance the fact that we still need to hit our quality.
Yeah. But then it's, and you hit the nail on the head. It's about managing expectations.
Right.
Especially
up front.
Right from the beginning. Right from the get-go. You've got to be that person who knows exactly what's going on. And, through experience and through, it's literally, you've learned and to put another whatever weeks on, because, experience tells you this, it's, I remember seeing, I think it was something somewhere where a contractor was just so literally matter of fact with a client. And I just love that. I think that,
I think that's good though. I mean, I think the more straightforward you can be, the better.
Yeah.
And I think Humphrey Munson as a company, we're pretty straightforward. Right. We do what we say we're going to do, and
you also leave. I mean, even if it's being blunt, right? They leave knowing that they got the truth. Yeah. Not like leaving like.
But also, I really believe this about brands. I really believe this about your work ethic. I really believe it, that people can sniff out inauthenticity at 100 paces, and if you just say what you're going to do, you're not, like I was saying earlier, you're not kind of competing with anyone else. You're not trying to beat anyone else. You're just doing what you do and staying true to what you do. There's so much power in that, and there's so much strength in that you just say, this is what we do, this is what we need to be able to do it, this is our best, this if you do it like this will give you the best possible end result. We want to give you the most perfect dream kitchen, and this is the time that we want to spend on it in design, this is the time that we need to spend on it in manufacturing, project management, this is what we need for a good site to be ready. And then this is our best, this is to let us do our best work, this is what we need. And obviously, sometimes things do go wrong on site, and you have to sort of work around things, and you have to be flexible and I think that's where our fitters and our painters are so fantastic, and they are so good at problem solving, and they're out on sites all over the country and away from their families, and it's hard. And they are, they're just amazing. They really are. Just like our work, all of the stuff you see on Instagram, all of these amazing pictures of these amazing kitchens. We spend so much time photographing these projects. And all we ever want to do from a marketing point of view is show our cabinet makers and their best work, and our fitters, the talent that they have when they're scribing in these, cabinets and things. Right. And that's really what you want to do, is to do them proud, because it's there's so many people that go into making that one kitchen. Right. So many people. It's really amazing.
Your company, I'm a firm believer in anything that we do, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Whatever's coming together in your product, if your finisher screws up, it's going to be your entire company that takes a hit. If your doors aren't made well, if it's at fabrication, if it's in design. And I think having that entire team together, and it's just like you mentioned earlier, where if your fabricators are doing something where it's like, hey, the installer can fix this, and then the installer's now resenting the fabricator for not, helping them out, and then they're not going to do their best job with the installation. And I think that it needs to carry from initial conceptual design through fit and finish if you want it to be a successful job.
And it's I think as well, like, it's knowing, like I was saying earlier, it's really about passing the job on to the next stage in a way that you're helping the next person out. So like with the design team, the way that I think one of the things that is slightly mind-blowing to designers is certainly when, with designing kitchens, you can sit and draw them and design them, and you can go to the client meeting, you can sort of imagine, imagine the scale of it, and you're standing in the showroom, and then you walk into it after it's been made, and you think, God, they say to them, you drew that, and they suddenly start to get a bit, uncomfortable, like, and I think that's really amazing. But they have such responsibility, the designers, to get it right and to make sure that they're doing things that are going to be, easy for production to interpret and then make, and then for the fitters to then install. And that's what, when you're talking about learning and evolving and innovating, that's a big part of it, that feedback as the kitchen project goes through those different stages, then how, each of those people that's involved in it is having an input and feedback so that it goes back into the process for the next time. And I think that's if you've got a good team and everyone has the ability to get their point of view across and to be heard, that's really powerful, because everyone has, has a view and everyone has an opinion, and it's worth listening to them.
That goes right back to how Peter kind of started the conversation, where people are doing it all wrong. And I think that creating that cohesive process is going to give you your best finished product, and handing that off so that it's not, hey, this is the next guy or girl in line's issue, they can deal with this. And I think even if anyone is to take anything away from this podcast, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's that's one of the most destructive things that can happen in a company, where you've got people that think, oh, it's not my problem.
Yeah.
I'm done with it. It's not, years ago we had someone who worked for us who had that attitude, and it was so terrible, because, you would see this kind of attitude like, well, it's not, you let project management sort it out. It's not my, I drew it. I don't care now. I'm over it.
No, and I think,
and that's just, that it's poison.
Setting everything up so that you are doing your best job to make the next person in line's job as easy as possible. It helps morale. It helps make everyone's job easier. It makes you more profitable. It makes the jobs go smoother. And I think that a huge takeaway from this, if somebody's listening and doesn't realize what goes into a kitchen, by all standards, like look at any, like an English kitchen design can be a very simple design. It's not crazy ornate. It doesn't have built up moldings, but how much actually goes into that from design to installation. And that's why even when I was speaking earlier to thinking where utensils go, my mind is, it explodes with the amount of details that have to go into designing a kitchen. There's so many tiny little nuances that now throw in where you're going to put this, this, and this. And it's like, all right, I'm done. Like, I can't handle anything more. And I think that it is so important.
You should see our clients after the design details meeting.
Exactly. But I think it's so important.
Yeah, you think this is long.
For everyone to see that it's not putting cabinet boxes together. That's not not kitchen design. There's so much that goes into it that nobody sees.
Absolutely.
And
it's not even just that. It's just mind blowing how, design it isn't, and I really want people to know that it is not just about putting boxes just in places. And I see so many kitchens, and I just think, wow, who does what were you thinking when you were designing that? Right? It's like there's no thought process behind it. And our design team are absolutely bang on the money. They agonise over it.
It's a deep thought process. It's what I really spend a lot of time with the design team, and I'm sure they're sick to death of me going on at them, but I take them into the showrooms and we talk about, and we cook in there, and I think that's one thing that actually is really important as well, is that they actually use the kitchens, and they
yes, because we always say as well, with this kind of training, we, and I don't want to really use the word sell, but we wouldn't sell anything or supply anything that we didn't believe in. And we don't. There's loads of range cookers, for instance, on the market, loads, but we only sell 2. We literally sell Wolf and we sell LeConte, and that's all we sell because that's all we believe in. It's the same thing as, everyone thinks about the cabinetry, but there's masses to learn and know about with appliances. How they, we really pride ourselves in how we integrate, and how these things work, and how the longevity of them and everything like that. There's all sorts of different things that we're thinking about, to make sure that the client at the end of the day is getting something that we believe in.
Right.
And that's really important.
There is so much, like Tyler was just saying, there's so many. You could literally, we could sit here for the next 12 hours and just talk about.
Doug won't let that happen.
Losing the will to live. Yeah. But there's so much that goes into it. Same thing for you guys, though. I mean, you're doing it on an even bigger scale.
Yeah, I mean, I just, like I said to you before, I just don't know how you do, kitchens and building and this and that. It's just.
I mean, I think I'm trying to perfect too many. Well, I shouldn't say too many things, but multiple things rather than just honing on one, where it just makes it a slower process for us. Yeah. Trying getting. Like I said earlier, I'm envious of the fact that you have this. Right from the very beginning of starting my company, I decided that the first thing I was going to do is build a brand, and I wanted to stick to that brand. And people do see our projects, and there is that. Every once in a while, I'll get that comment like, "Hey, I scrolled by your photo. I knew exactly who built that because it's just your style." Yeah. But I know that we're still like this tree has many branches, and then we go in all these different directions. But I know that ultimately my goal is to have a very distinct, aesthetic. Yeah. And whether whatever that may be, just when someone sees a home and when they walk in a home, they're like, "Oh, I know who built this." Yeah. And I think the fact that I brought millwork into our business was because we would build these projects or renovate or build these homes and put someone else's kitchen in it, and it's like that's not mine. Like you guys bought it from someone else, or like you decide. Like I wasn't involved in that. I want people to understand who built the home when they walk the home. Yeah.
I also think that goes for installation as well. Like they're handling conception to installation, and I can't imagine how people are building cabinets and then letting somebody else install them, because you could build the most beautiful cabinets and then somebody else is absolutely botching and trashing the install, and I'm like, those are your cabinets, that's your name. Absolutely. And I'm like, I don't know how people do that. It blows my mind. And I think it's probably cultural and what we do as a country, and because a lot of people don't value all of those tiny little details. But what you guys are able to do, even coming into a space after it's plastered and your floors are screeded to come into that's custom. You're actually building something to the space what we're doing is we're designing something for a space, then we're trying to make the space fit what we already designed and fabricated. You know, so like if you're not doing all, and that's why I handle almost everything, because I want those finishes to come together the way that they should, but you guys are doing it right. Like you've set it up in a way that you're building it for the space.
Yeah. Like going back to what you're saying about, you know, making it, and that's exactly what you said there. That's how I feel about, you know, we make this beautiful product. I would hate to see someone bodge it up on an install. So we don't ever supply only. You know, we'll never supply to somebody. Having control over it being installed is like, you know, is the icing on the cake.
Right. You want to be able to photograph it.
Well, yeah. Well,
Louisa does. Not
just that. But you know, you want that lifetime guarantee. How can you?
Right.
You can't give someone a lifetime guarantee if someone else is fitted. Sure. Because it's like you don't know how they fitted it, and you know it could be anything.
I think also one thing that's really, it's not, it is obviously it's about the quality of the fitting, and it's about the expertise and the experience that the fitters have to be able to do that work. But the other thing is that these, apart from the design stage at the beginning, which is meetings and their hours, the fitters and the hand painters spend the most amount of time in our clients' homes. And that is so important. And our fitters and our painters are the nicest, loveliest, most talented people. And they are just wonderful to work with. And our clients give us the most amazing feedback about them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that, I think, is such a big part of it. Because you could have someone who's really, really talented at fitting, but might be awful and rude. And, you know, the guys that work for us and the girls that work for us, they're not like that at all. They're really, really good people. And I think that's a really big part of it as well, because that's what clients remember. You know, Nick said earlier about, you know, he's done this job, it's a year, and it's, you know, the client remembers that one thing that didn't go right. And unfortunately, that does happen. And I think it's really important that the end stage, the people that your clients are interacting the most with are the people that enjoy their work and
representing the company, right?
Yeah,
right.
They're representing the company.
Because, you know, that's what it's all about. It's, you know, they're representing your company. That's your brand.
Right.
That is your brand.
And it's the same thing as you discussed before. People are going into this. A lot of people have never done this before. And it's a very scary experience for them. You know, they don't know what they're going into. They don't know what they're going to experience. They don't know who these people are. And to know that they're being taken care of is so, like my customers, to know that they're going to be in good hands is so important for them. Definitely. Throughout this process. And I think that you guys are handling that as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, and that's something that I was going to touch on. You know, yes, we do the install and we're a slightly bigger company, but I think that's because we think like a small company, or we think like someone who is like me, who's, you know, who has that kind of, when I made kitchens, I fitted them, and, you know, and that's how I want it to be. I want that to kind of be across the board,
right.
You know, because I'm pretty sure most kitchen companies in England definitely subcontract, most of them.
Yeah. The
smaller kitchen companies don't, because, you know, and what it is money.
Yeah.
You know, because we pay a lot of money. We pay a lot of money, you know.
It's like our building side.
Full-time installation. We pay a lot of money for the vans. You know, we, you know,
it's not inexpensive.
It's not inexpensive. And that's why these people have subcontractors fit in their kitchens.
Right.
But to me, it's the biggest.
So important.
Yeah, that's it's.
I think the client experience, I think that's something that is what drives new business. And I think that the client experience is focused on, obviously there's the initial excitement of designing the kitchen, and then nothing happens for a while it's being made and they're checking site and it's a bit boring, nothing's really happening, and everyone's getting a bit, you know, there's stress, and it's, you know, there's, like you were saying, it's a huge financial, it's often, when people are doing building projects, it's the biggest financial kind of undertaking they'll be making, you know, and it's very, very daunting. And things often spiral out of control. And then I think that for us, the client you know, that experience at the end is so important. And seeing and hearing from clients, like when their kitchen's being installed and, you know, the different stages and just the, you know, the excitement that they have of seeing it all come together. And it gives, you know, it's a huge peace of mind knowing that the sites are being looked after. And, you know,
literally, if we're going to get an email about something, it's going to be about our fitters and our painters. Right. Literally. You know, they can have this whole massive great experience, but the one thing that they will talk about, you know, I'll get an email or I'll talk to them on the phone and they'll say, you know.
Yeah, the fitters like get taken out for dinner.
Yeah, they get given wine and all sorts of things. It's just like crazy.
You guys, you said you're hiring or you're not hiring?
Yeah.
We could go for some wine.
Yeah. And some dinner. I do come along with a wife and 2 young daughters, so we're definitely going to need a van.
Yes, a big van.
It's not inexpensive. I believe that's what she just said.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's not inexpensive.
This was awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I'm excited for what you guys are doing and where you want to take your company. I think that your vision aligns a lot with what we do, and I think that it's very apparent that you guys put quality and kind of your passion first beforehand, almost to a fault, probably before making money. Like you said, there's ways of being more profitable. You could subcontract installs, but you're kind of staying true to your heart, which I think speaks to a lot of, I mean, to me personally, I know it does.
I feel like so many people right now, especially our audience, like they're in that, you know, 1995 to 2005 Peter stage. Yeah. And it's like, you know,
got to keep going.
Right. And it's like the guys building built-ins for their friends in the garage, and like, I'll never build kitchens. And at one point you never thought that. Yeah. And it's, you know, and then it was the fact that you never veered off track and you were like, nope, I'm going to continue to put my best foot forward. And, you know, I'm, you know, through the ups and downs, it's not, you know, it was never about, all right, I need to sacrifice quality to keep the lights on. It was, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. And if it works, it works. And
yeah. And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right.
You can't be afraid of it. You've just got to go.
Yeah, you've got to try it.
You've got to try it.
And that's, I feel like so many people become paralyzed with that.
Absolutely.
It's like they look for they're in a bad situation. They're going to lose, they're losing money, whatever the case is. And they try to react to it and change what they're doing.
Yeah. I've done that.
I think we all have. And it's like all of a sudden you spiral and you're going down this path of like, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like, how did I get here? And I think, you know, hearing it from someone like you guys that have had great success, and, you know, you guys have such a great image in your industry.
Thank you.
You know, to hear that kind of upbringing through that is truly inspiring.
Thanks.
We did have one technical question, John, and we owe it to John.
It's funny because the designer that Nick works with a lot sent me an entire list of questions, but I'm gonna, although I already responded to her, I'm going to ignore that. We didn't have time. Amy's texting me. She's like, I tried sending them to Nick.
Oh, Doug has my phone. You guys up for a couple rapid fire questions?
Yeah, go for it. You might not get the answer you want, but
Doug's losing the will to live.
John, all right, so John, our other co-host, he gets asked a lot in his projects, upper cabinetry, and whether it should be up against the ceiling or left down
that
from the ceiling.
That is what we get asked all the time on Instagram.
All the time. Yeah, so I know the American market is more towards fitting cabinetry to the ceiling. Yep. I personally am a fan of furniture looking like furniture and not part of the architectural kind of, you know. I like to see a gap. That's just me. I'm kind of a bit of a traditionalist like that. But that's not to say that we wouldn't go against the ceiling. But then what would dictate that is proportion. Sure. So I would never, like, if you've got a massive great ceiling, I would never go to to the ceiling, because it's like, it's going to look
84-inch upper cabinets.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen so many kitchens.
Sure.
You know, photos where they're literally and I'm like,
right.
You know, it's you stand in the kitchen.
You can't get anything from that.
Yeah, but you've got to, it's all proportion. It's all to do with proportion, isn't it? I think, you know. I don't think there's a right or wrong thing about that. It's just proportion and.
Agreed. I think. I mean, oftentimes I know. You know, there's situations where like crown molding, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you have a gray kitchen, but you have white crown molding in the home, and you have the cabinets that go up to the ceiling. How do you transition that? It's like you have gray cabinets with gray crown molding, same profile as the wall, and the crown molding in the rest of the room is white.
Yeah, so I would, if someone's got a room cornice, crown molding,
room cornice,
that's what I call it. Yeah, if they've got that, then I would never go to the ceiling.
Okay,
that's just, I mean, we probably have done it before, but probably.
What if you had 7-foot ceilings?
Very, very low, yeah.
And your cabinets were all the way up. I'm giving him a hypothetical.
Yeah, no. If they were 7 foot or even 8 foot, and you know we were, if it's got room cornice, I would come down. Yeah, I would literally give it space. But you know, again, it's proportion.
Proportion, right?
You know, if it's a massive kitchen, and it's, you know, you've got to think about it, because if it's big, it's going to look squat. Right. So you've got to think about all these things, and it's, you know, the room cornice comes into the design of the kitchen, really. Right. You know, it's that whole overall look.
Fair. Okay.
Rapid fire. Nick's not very rapid fire. Do they select counters first or cabinet color?
Oh, that can be. That's just, you know. I mean, I would say 9 times out of 10 you're going to be cabinet color, and then you're going to be worked up. But it's in the whole thing, isn't it? We do the whole thing at that time. We don't. You know, we do a design details, and we layer that whole thing.
It's quick fire.
Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Him and I are not good at this.
Number 4, I already know the answer to. She doesn't. This is 5. Most important in caps. Wine cellar. What was their experience installing this? As we were about to, I want to know what to expect. So Nick.
The spiral wine cellar that I asked you about.
Oh yes.
We're installing one on a project. Yeah, okay. It's on the way from Canada. It's on the way from UK to Canada to us.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Who's manufacturing it in UK?
It came from UK. It was the same.
Spiral Cellars?
Yeah, Spiral Cellars.
In Wimbledon?
Yep.
Yeah,
so they did
amazing.
the one that. Yep. Yeah. So yeah. There you go.
So Amy wants to know their experience.
I mean, I feel like you should be asking that more than she should.
But
she said, "What was their experience installing this?" I want to know what to expect.
Well, we didn't have a lot to do with it, to be honest with you.
All right. Good enough. Rapid fire.
The client ordered it.
You know, it was just there.
It was there. Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, that was it.
I had one last question, because I get asked this a lot, and this is kind of speaking directly to cabinet makers and other mill workers. Yeah. Is, without getting into necessarily specific numbers, how do you go about pricing a project? And that's not super rapid fire.
We have a so it's per cabinet, per drawer, we have a
like a worksheet.
We have we've made an Excel sheet that you put in what you have and blah 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 blah.
There's we have a custom pricing structure.
That we've made.
So like that pantry situation
depends on the finish, depends on the quartz, depends on the spec, depends on so many. There's many variables.
But we can put it all in there and it will come out.
Right. Yeah. So if someone makes a change, you're able to say, okay, that deducted or
we do different woods internally, so you have to be able to.
What's your standard?
Classic oak.
Classic oak on the interior.
Yeah. And then the other finishes are just different stains, essentially, apart from the Smithfield, and then there's walnut.
And you guys own your own paint line, right? And hardware.
Yeah.
And stain.
Yep.
We do our own stain.
Yeah, they're all bespoke. So we work with, for example, with the paints, we work with Mylands, which is a really amazing British company, and they make the paints exclusively for us. So the colours are colours that Peter worked with them to create that range, which took ages.
And does not include bubblegum pink.
No,
it does not.
But I'm not. I do. We have
got some new colours coming.
We have got, and there are some. Yeah, colours are a hard thing. The best thing about the kitchens is that if you get bored, you can repaint them in 10 years.
Right. And then what about as far as like ecologically friendly? Water-based finishes? Are there things that you guys take, special precautions for?
We have to.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because of health and safety and,
So there's no solvent-based products?
We do use solvent-based on our lacquers.
Okay.
Lacquers, our stains are solvent-based as well.
Yep.
But all of our paints are water-based.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That was fun.
We got anything else?
I don't think so.
We haven't asked. I don't think we've asked this in a while. Who do you guys look towards for inspiration on Instagram specifically? Like who do you guys watch?
Well, I don't really. What in terms of like in kitchen?
Anything? Yeah, could be kitchen.
I think I don't really. I mean, I think my mind's gone completely blank. Shall I have a look at my
No, I mean
Instagram?
I mean I don't really look at them on
You're-
Instagram, but I love ball-top kitchens. I'm a huge fan of ball-top kitchens.
Yeah.
I would never have one. Only because, but I love them. I just think they're just...
Did you do your kitchen in your home?
I did, yeah.
Have you replaced it more than once?
No.
Wow.
No.
My kitchen in my home is the first kitchen I ever built,
Oh, really?
and I cannot wait to rip it out.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No, mine was done...
I didn't think
Quite some
about
time
my
into it.
utensils or I have to have pots in the basement because I didn't put it in place for them. My upper cabinets are an inch too short. My plates don't fit in them. All the
Yeah,
issues.
that's it. Well,
Learned a lot.
even when you put the new one in, you'll have problems.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, I just looked through my Instagram. It's not really got any. I don't really follow any other kitchen companies, but I do follow a lot of interior design companies, and I love Carrier and Company in New York.
Yeah.
They are amazing.
Yeah.
I love what they do. I love the way they layer. I think they're really talented. And there's lots of English designers that some of them we work with.
Yeah.
And they're amazing. But for me, I think you can find inspiration anywhere. And I love to
inspiration
cook and look at interiors and, food and
I think that's one of the...
hotels and things.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're... I'm not a big fan of, I will not look at other people's, kitchen companies. I just will not. I just don't. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in what everyone else is doing because I keep focused on what we're doing. And I think that if you just look at everybody else, you're just going to completely compare yourself all the time. And that's...
Yeah, they say
I'm not saying
comparison is the thief of all joy.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's true. I did always used to look, but, there was a time, I can't remember when it was, but I switched off. And I literally am just focused and concentrate on Humphrey Munson. And I love things like tables and and little different niggly design bits and I think what's that big account that we follow, NS Build?
Yeah.
They're fantastic. I
was going to say, I paid him to say it.
Can I
What took
just
so
say,
long?
Nick, when you walked in earlier,
Yes.
and you started talking, it's so funny because I see one of your things about Instagram is that you're doing these videos all the time.
The stories.
And the stories, and I hear your voice, and Peter's watching your videos, I can
Do I
hear him
sound
sat
the
on the
same in
sofa.
person?
Nick's gonna tell everyone that
Yeah.
right now.
I am.
And
Nick's already
I
texting
hear
his
your
wife.
voice.
Peter
and I'm
watches.
like,
Peter watches my
it's
videos.
so familiar. Because you do.
It's fun. We've looked to you guys for inspiration forever, and especially in the beginning of cabinet making. And I wish Ken was here because he, we all hold you guys so high in respect. And
Well, that's all Peter. I mean, that's the thing about Humphrey Munson is that everything that we do, design, manufacturing, project management, fitting,
but
painting,
I
that
love your
comes
connection to it. I follow your account and I follow your personal account, but your
Mine's just full of my dog.
the dog,
And
Paul, and food.
Toast.
Toasted
Yeah.
avocado.
Yeah.
I actually,
Eggs.
I'm not going to go down that road.
What?
I was going to say, I tried to replicate it one day and took a picture. I was going to send it to you. I was like, that looks nothing like hers. But
that's the thing about the company, There's so many great people that sit in these great seats, and they just are part. That's what makes Humphrey Munson. It's not me, I started it, but I wouldn't be anything without all of these guys around me. I mean, to have a great company, you have to have a great company, right?
Yeah. So you guys are at Humphrey Munson on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at
Mr. P. Humphrey.
And?
At Louisa Eggleston.
Awesome. And you guys' website? What's the website?
www.co.uk.
There you go.
Sorry.
.co.uk.
.co.uk, yeah.
Yeah.
HumphreyMunson.co.uk.
Awesome.
We do own the .com as well, but we don't do anything with it.
It doesn't redirect?
I think it redirects, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it, but we did talk about switching it over, but we never did it.
No.
Awesome.
Too late now.
Well, I appreciate this, guys.
Yeah, thanks
No,
for
it's
coming
been great.
on.
Thank you so much for having
thank you.
us. Thank you for indulging.
Yes.
So you can find us on themoderncraftsman.org. You can email us at info@themoderncraftsman.org, and find us on Instagram, @the_modern_craftsman. Doug, what are our numbers up to today? You don't have a mic? All right, 500, 500,000 downloads.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, we're doing really good.
Doing really good.
Doug's got us kicking butt over here. But subscriptions matter, which we found out. We also hit 500 comments, reviews on iTunes, and we are also videoing a lot of these podcasts, which you guys can check out on YouTube, and you can. It's helpful because you can have episode-specific comments. Tyler, anything to add?
I think that's it. I mean, you can find the podcast on anywhere that we can find any podcast. You know, Spotify, iTunes,
Amazon Alexa,
Stitcher.
Tried that
What's
the
it
other
called?
day. Stitcher, Google Play.
Yeah,
All of them.
the usual.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Take care.